So we were just talking about Halloween decorations. Corey, if you get one every year,
Yeah.
because we do this for Christmas,
Right.
go
I
like
do as well. Yeah.
you Home Depot, Lowe's, like right after, just get
Yes.
whatever. Yeah, getting half off. It's gonna be for next year. It's great. I forgot we bought a bunch of fucking like little candy canes for the walkway
Oh
last year.
yeah.
We got them at like the
That
at
is
home
wild.
store for like
Yep.
75% off.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
it's
went to like
fantastic.
get all our Christmas decoration. I was like, oh shit, that's right.
That and Christmas themed, like, like just totes, like plastic totes.
Totes, dude.
They're so expensive normally, but like you'll get
December
like
26th, baby.
red and green ones, but like they also hold like old clothes and things. Like
It's the best.
They're very
it's the best
versatile.
deal.
you don't have to just put Christmas things in them. That's what they don't want you to know. Okay.
Yeah. Ran out of Christmas wrapping paper, so I had to write happy birthday, Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus, 430 times on every
It's
present.
Jesus. Thank you.
Oh, Bobby,
Jesus
read a
Christ,
book. There's this good one. It's called The Bible.
Mm. I remember reading that on an old wooden ship. It's made during the Civil War era.
Was it called Diversity?
Diversity.
Bobby, that clip you sent us in our little TikTok group chat. Feel this leg right here. Tell me that
feel like
doesn't
a
feel like a cock.
just frothy ejaculate.
God.
Welcome
Anchorman
to the
2
big
out.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, without further ado, good evening, Rally Talent Sports family, and welcome to the show. It's off the rails already, per usual. Wanted to start this broadcast off just by saying RIP to a legend, the late, the great Charlie Hustle, Mr. Pete Rose. Sad day for Cincinnati. Sad day for baseball in general.
And therefore the world.
Pete.
Yeah. Number
Cheers,
14.
Pete. I know we had a group chat going for it. I would love to give you guys the floor here, but I mean, real quick, I think Pete Rose is one of those guys that kind of transcends baseball in general. I've always been of the opinion that it's an absolute crock of shit that he hasn't been in the Hall of Fame. I'm sad to see that he passed away without seeing his name in those halls. I've always held the firm belief across every sport that this is a museum, and if I have a son or daughter someday, I want to take them, to the museum of baseball, and picking and choosing who gets in and not in there on moral standing to me doesn't sit right with me. That's my little piece. But I'd love for you guys to talk about him on a more Cincinnati level.
Yeah.
Todd, take it away. I know you got some good Pete Rose stories.
Yeah, dude. I mean, for like growing up in Cincinnati and playing baseball, that's the story, whether it's your dad, your grandfather, your uncle, your dad's whomever, they all have a Pete Rose story, right? Like that's kind of the centerpiece of Cincinnati baseball. And, it feels like it hurt, guys. It hurt me a lot. It's really sad.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah. I know, obviously Joe Nuxhall is a big part of the community, and Todd, I know it's kind of tough for you to talk about, but Todd, he has this great story about, unfortunately, it was Joe Nuxhall's memorial service that took place at our high school, our alma mater, Fairfield. And it's just an awesome story about Pete Rose just being a dude. Like, I know that you were, a volunteer at that event, and you were coordinating a lot of things, and Pete took you guys all out to White Castle and
Yeah,
bought
he
you all
bought two
sliders
16-year-old kids White Castle. Just happened to show up at, White Castle sits right in front of the high school. We pull into the parking lot. He's in a Lincoln Continental with his son, Pete Rose Jr.
Yep.
We get out of the car. The window rolls down. And you just hear,
Fucking Pete
"Hey,
Rose.
kid. Hey, kid." And I look over, and it's fucking Pete Rose and his son. Hands me a $50 bill and goes, we want 10 sliders, 2 fries. You guys get what you want. Keep the change. And like, we sat in silence on the car ride home, and he drops me off, and I walk inside with his bag of sliders, and my dad's like, "Oh, you got White Castle?" And I'm like, no, Pete Rose got me White Castle. Like this is a different this is different cheeseburgers, Dad. Like
Right.
the greatest
These are built
know,
different today.
the greatest
Surprise.
Cincinnati-born baseball player, right? I know that sounds a little controversial, right, with Ken Griffey Jr. also being born in Cincinnati and laying roots here, but
Ken Griffey Jr. also
maybe
doesn't have over
the
4,000 hits.
well, maybe the most Cincinnati baseball player. Let's call
you're
him
right.
that. He's
Definitely an
he is the
argument, though.
definition of he's the definition of Cincinnati baseball, and his motto of nobody will beat me because I'll always try harder. I think that's that got instilled in us, right? I think for any kid, that's kind of the motto is hard work pays off, right? We're told that our whole lives, and he lived by that motto.
Yeah.
I think we all root for different teams across different sports, but one of the things that I think is very uniquely Rally Tal is we're all, blue collar cities. So I can completely understand why, a player with the caliber of Pete Rose would just, resonate with that town. And Todd, I'm sure those were the slowest burgers you ever ate just to savor them, right?
Unbelievable, dude. It's a top. I have
That's
a
a great
beautiful
story.
son and a lovely wife, and it's in the top 3 moments, fellas. Like
it has to be.
That's
I think something I've seen a lot this week is obviously there's been a ton of Pete Rose on social media, and it's like just for me personally, just in like my values as a human being and how I was brought up, like there's no point to play if you're not trying to win.
Yep.
Like just life, like just in life in general, like there's no point in just going out there and half-assing it. Like give it everything you got. Like it's win or go home. Like with everything I do in life, like I'm a super ultra competitive person, sometimes to a fault, but like knowing that there's other people on the planet that exist with that mindset, like hit me a different way this week. So, it's kind of cool to see the walk down memory lane with him. But Corey, you got anything?
Yeah, I think it's we'd be doing reality any disjustice or misjustice to not recognize the fact that Pete Rose is a very polarizing person.
Sure.
Pete Rose is anything but perfect, but that's not what I think of when I think of Pete Rose. I think of the stuff that you guys have all talked about. Not just the hits. Pete Rose is the most winningest athlete of all time. There's no one that has won more than Pete Rose has as a player. Over 1,900 wins on teams that he played in the game. The next closest is Hank Aaron with just over 1,700. So it's something that will probably never be touched, as well as his hit record,
Right.
Which is pretty amazing. But I read his book probably about 10 years ago at this point. I believe it's called My Prison Without Bars by Pete Rose. Really, really interesting read. Talks about, growing up on the west side of Cincinnati, Western Hills High School, talks about, growing up around the ponies and kind of the rush. And it wasn't about the money with the gambling. It was about winning. He liked winning.
Right.
Which, whatever. Pete Rose, he's served his time. It was a lifetime ban from the game of baseball that has been served. It's time to move on and tell the story appropriately, and make sure that we tell the story of baseball the right way and put Pete in there. So
Yep.
No, I'm glad we took a moment to talk. I'm excited. We got a lot of really good matchups. So let's go ahead and wrap that up. Move to our next segment, brought to you by DraftKings. Let's get on with the picks. I'm just kidding.
But it is funny that you do say it like that, because it is like, wow, he disgraced the game. This segment brought to you by DraftKings. It's a real fucking thing. It's like,
yeah,
right. And also, before we move into football, obviously this one isn't as close to our hearts, but obviously rest in peace to Kevin Mutombo as well.
Yeah.
Huge member of at least my
so
90s
young, man.
remembrance of basketball as my brain first started coming online. Probably not his best moment, but I do always remember Michael Jordan closing his eyes saying, "Hey, Mutombo, watch this, and just sinking his free throw. Like, Dikembe Mutombo has done such good in this world as well, and I'd just be remiss to not give him a shout out as well.
Good call.
To kind of lighten it up, I think he was called up at the right time because of all these people that are about to get fucked, like that are doing horrible things in the world. Can you imagine Jesus just playing a card, being like, "Hey, I want you to stand at the pearly gates and just go, no, 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 no." You know how hilarious that. Sorry, I was just trying to lighten the mood a little bit.
That's good.
Just thought it was funny.
The pauper of purgatory.
Right.
The comment in the chat, I think, is
From
is
Tez.
yeah, and what's up, Tez?
I don't know why it's not linked up, but
yeah,
says
he's
Facebook
making a
people.
point about presidents getting away with a lot more than what Pete did. It's just crazy, basically, that he hasn't been put in the Hall of Fame, and past time that he's forgiven and voted in. It's pretty ridiculous. I would agree. I think the biggest thing, however, is Pete, for the longest time, at least up until the last probably about 5 to 10 years, has been very unremorseful, has been very stubborn. And there's a story about Pete Rose that went and met with, was it Bud Selig at the time, and met with him. And he said, "What do I have to do to get into the Hall?" And he said, "Well, you need to apologize for the whole situation and basically, disassociate yourself with gambling in all its entirety." Pete said, "Okay," walked out of the office, and then the next 4 hours he was inside of a casino. So it's the inability for him to swallow his pride and do what it took. At least that's the story that's being painted. Pete Rose is a very prideful person, very bullheaded, stubborn person, which attributes to his success in a way as well.
Yeah, I did see one take that was interesting to me. It was AJ Pierzynski. I don't know if you guys saw this interview he did on the podcast, but he was very, very adamant that Pete Rose should not be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
For the simple reason that they all sign like a disclosure document that goes over all the rules of baseball before they sign a contract, and one of the stipulations is not gambling, and it's a lifetime ban. Like, everybody signs it, what you're doing. Like, player, manager, doesn't matter. I thought it was an interesting take. Do I agree with it? No, because I think
but
it was
the two are not tied together, right?
correct. Yeah, he did this well after he was a player, and he only bet on his team to win. So I don't see the issue with it, but it is what it is.
Well, also the Hall of Fame is not part of MLB. It's not part of Major League Baseball.
That's
the Baseball Writers of America,
which to
Right.
me is the biggest crock, because I
Yes.
just don't understand.
That's the
who
biggest
they are
problem
to
in
play
baseball today.
Gatekeeper
So
behind what we're allowed to remember as fans.
Yeah.
If you want to put something on
Bingo.
his plaque or throw an asterisk on it and say, this guy, cheated on, not cheated on, but you know what I mean? Like, this guy gambled on
Bet on
baseball, and
baseball.
he bet on baseball and went against all the rules that, we had in this sport, and you want to document that, that's fine. I don't mean to relate these two, but again, I view the Hall of Fame as a museum, and take away all the atrocities of history and be like, hey, this was all pretty good. That's not what a museum is. Let's cover it all, warts and all.
yeah, absolutely. All right, boys. Let's do a quick recap of week 4. Just kind of change gears, and then we'll dive into the week 5 matchups here. So we have an outright leader between the panel and the chat, and that leader is Mr. Todd Gottschall.
Wow.
39 and 25. Todd coming in with the best week last week out of anybody at 12 and 4. Well done, sir. You have been on quite a streak this year. Next best record was by Mr. Corey James at 11 and 5. And then we've got 3 people at 10 and 6. That is Aaron, myself, and Ryan Jester. And then we've got 9 and 7 between Josh Pops and Ariel and Tez, back-to-back weeks of 8 and 8. So tough couple weeks, but I have no doubt you'll bounce back. That being said, Mr. Todd Gottschall, I'm going to give you the floor here. What is the pick that you're most proud of last week? Oh, sorry, standings. So Todd is in first, 39 and 25. Corey, you and I are tied at 36-28. Aaron is in last at 34-30, so he is only 2 games back of us and 5 of Todd, so it's still pretty tight. It's early. As far as the chat lead, Josh and Ryan are tied at 38-26. Pops is at 37-27, and then Ariel and Tez are tied at 35-29. So lots of ground to make up. But as far as last week goes, Todd, you're 12-4. What was your strategy going into last week, and what are some of the picks that kind of put you over the edge?
Boys, I'm a man of stats, and I just let the good Lord Jesus Stats Christ take me where I need to go. If I'm taking a pick that I'm most proud of, I guess I'll call Bucks Eagles. I don't think that came as a shock to anybody, right? We've kind of seen the
I was a
trend of
lone
the
wolf
Eagles.
on that. I took the Eagles,
Right.
and you 3 took the Bucks, and
Right.
I was mistaken. Actually, I should have followed suit.
I think, truth be told, the directions of the games this past week kind of went the way that the majority thought they were going to go, excluding maybe the Browns and the Bears, or sorry, the Rams and the Bears, right? I think that, coming off of a really hard win against the 49ers, I thought maybe that the Rams would kind of ride that wave into Chicago, especially a team that's trying to find their identity still. And, they just looked super flat. I certainly thought that the Ravens would beat the Bills. I didn't think it was going to be just a walloping and a shit show, but I think there's something to be said that, 2 of the top 10 runners are on the same team in the AFC North. That's a pretty daunting fact, right? 800 yards between 2 people. Not quite a Sean Genty from Boise State, but, I'll give credit where credit's due. Yeah, it's video game stats for that dude. It's unbelievable to watch him run the football. But really, I think, fellas, I don't know if you agree with this or not. I felt like this was the first week where football kind of felt status quo, where like games were won appropriately. There wasn't anybody like the Jets and the Broncos. It was a stinker last year too. It seems like 2 years in a row that being a stinker. That it is what it is.
It's also there's rain in the game too, like
right
on the MetLife Field, like
it was bound to be a show.
Yeah, but no, other than the Dolphins getting destroyed by the Titans, led by Mason Rudolph, like nothing crazy.
So as far as the panel goes, last week there were two lone wolves that succeeded. The first one was Aaron, taking the Colts over the Steelers. Controversial game in my opinion. Obviously, I have a little skin in that game, but we can talk about that later. And then the Commanders with a commanding win over the Cardinals. I took them over the Cardinals. Everybody else took the Commanders. Or vice versa. But yeah. And then there were 2 games that we all lost on, which was the Broncos Jets and the Rams Bears. So pretty wild. I would almost count Corey and Todd's Titans pick as a lone wolf because you guys were the only 2 that had them. That was also a pretty epic performance from Mr. Mason Rudolph coming in for a crying Will Levis, but we can dive into that later.
Whoops.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into tomorrow night's game. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking things on the road versus the Falcons. This could be a good game, boys. I feel like all the Thursday night games have been pretty solid.
It's interesting. It seems like they're doing, it's divisional matchups, which kind of just lend themselves to a little more familiarity and, tend to be pretty good games regardless.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Aaron, why don't you lead us off? Buccaneers, Falcons, who you got?
Yeah, man, I'm going to go ahead and take the Falcons here. I am still a little unsure of what we're going to get out of Atlanta. It's interesting. We've seen this offense kind of sputter a little bit, but it seems like they're putting piece by piece together and finding ways to win. Obviously, Young Ho Kim last week was just kicking field goals what is it? It's Koo. I'm sorry. Was just, he had a 58-yard field goal to win the game, which was incredible. Field goal kicking has just been a revelation this year. It's insane. I don't know what they're putting in these footballs or what they're feeding these kids, but what used to be a let's cut into this game. This guy's about to attempt a 58-yard field goal, and now it just seems like a layup, which I just think has been a very interesting part of this season. But Buccaneers, I think, are just playing really good football right now, guys. That offense is humming on all cylinders. The irony here a little bit is your MVP candidates, through these first 4 weeks is going to be that draft class, right? You're looking at Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. Poor Josh Rosen sitting at home. Other than that, though, they're looking pretty good. So very, very interesting, I would say, to say the least. But yeah, let's take the Bucs here on a Thursday night.
Awesome. Tez, we have not talked about Devontae. I figured we'd touch on that when we get a little bit deeper into the podcast. Here we talk Raiders Broncos, so we will touch on that here in a little bit. Corey, I'll swing it over to you. Bucs Falcons.
Yeah, real quick, I'll just mention, Chad, if you got anything else you want us to touch on tonight, make sure to just throw it in there, and we will make a note of it and get to it when we can. This one's a little interesting from a Vegas perspective. Opened at -2.5 for the Falcons at home. That line has since moved to -1.5, and the juice has stayed the same. So Vegas, not feeling as confident in the Falcons by a point. Still think they're going to win. And I'm going to follow suit with that as well. I think this is a coin flip game. I think both these teams are pretty evenly matched. I think when all things are said and done, these are the two that are going to be contending for that division title. I think obviously what the Saints are doing, is admirable, and they got a huge game on Monday night, which we'll talk about later. But I just, in terms of horses in the stables, I think that these are the two most complete teams in the NFC South. So with it kind of just being up in the air, I'll go ahead and take our newly found primetime Kirk. I think he did pretty well against the Chiefs in his last primetime showing. So I think
barring a pass interference call, my theory is on point.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm gonna just emphasize for that pass interference call, like the Chiefs have the ball with 2-ish minutes left, and so whether or not that would have won the game, who knows? I mean, I'll be the first one to say fuck the Chiefs and that they get their dick sucked by the referees. I'll be the first to say it. I think I just was, but at the same time, there's something to be considered there. So, but give me the Falcons at home, mostly just based on the fact that they're at home.
Sure, Todd.
Yeah, I'm taking the Falcons here too, boys. I think we're watching again. This is new coach, new quarterback, new scheme, new regime. Let's put it all together, and to come back on New Orleans last week, get themselves in a position to win. It just seems like things are clicking in Atlanta now, and we all kind of talked about, Corey and I specifically talked about that this could be one of the best teams in the NFL, top 2 team in the NFC. I think we're going to start seeing them start kind of chipping away at that and kind of assuring themselves in the NFC South. This feels like a perfect opportunity to get on prime time and put up 30 plus points. But, I want to take nothing away from Tampa Bay, right? I mean, Aaron said it, Baker's an MVP candidate thus far. That defense looks revitalized again, this is the same roster as last year, fellas. Not a ton of differences here. But if we're going roster to roster here, I like Atlanta's odds at home, especially in a divisional matchup.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not going to fade. My primetime Kirk Cousins theory. I do believe that there were quite a few things that didn't go their way in the last primetime matchup, and I want to continue to ride this coin. And there's no reason to fade you here in a game that's split. I'm very, very happy that Baker Mayfield is finding success. Obviously we've seen a lot of quarterbacks this year excel and do some great things because they're in the right fit. Obviously Sam Darnold had a very, very tough start to his career. Baker Mayfield had a tough start to his career. Geno Smith, tough start to his career. A lot of these guys that just got drafted by bad teams. 2 of them were the Jets. So they're in much better fits for their play style, and they're having some great things happen in their careers, and it's super awesome to see.
My bad.
Right.
That's on.
I was like, did I hear myself
on
twice?
me.
That was weird. But yeah, I'm taking the Falcons here. In prime time, I'm just happy for this game tomorrow. It's going to be a fun one to watch. So, speaking of some of those quarterbacks in better situations, we got Sam Darnold at home against Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Sam Darnold, what the hell, boys? This dude's lighting it up.
He's in the right situation.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, really,
leading the league in passing touchdowns, and like that offense just is humming. And their defense is what, 2-3 in the league?
Yeah, they're right up there. They have been one of the better units in football to start the year. And what's crazy is you're seeing this rise of Sam Darnold while you're kind of seeing a fall back to earth from the quarterback position in general. I mean, we saw, two backup quarterbacks, which we alluded to, in between Joe Flacco and Mason Rudolph, come in and play better than their starting counterparts.
Yep.
It's just interesting to see how the quarterback position has been so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that Flacco outplayed Richardson. Obviously, I think experience has a lot to do with it. But Richardson's he's an athletic specimen. If he could just learn how to fucking slide.
If you had an offensive coordinator or a head coach that, put him in position.
Protected him?
Protect himself.
Cared about his well-being? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably
Hey, looks like you hurt your hip there. Let's go ahead and do a QB draw right here, bud.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing, Kevin O'Connell?
Yeah. Towards
or
one
Shane
of the best,
Steichen. Sorry.
towards one of the
Kevin.
best edge rushers in the fucking league. So yeah, great call. But yeah, we got the Jets on the road in Minnesota. Todd, leader in the clubhouse. Let you lead this one off. Who you got?
Fellas, Aaron Rodgers 2-1 in London. Do you know what Sam Darnold's record in London is?
No.
0-0. You know what that means?
Absolutely nothing.
It means he's due.
It means he's
due. Means he's due to go across the pond and throw some tutties. No, I think this really, if you're going to talk about a first London match, this is should be pretty interesting, right? You're seeing the Jets come off of, again, a sloppy weather condition, can't get the ball around game, and you're talking about one of the hottest teams in football. But this Jets defense is still tough, fellas, right? Like I think this is I guess Sam Darnold beat San Francisco, but this is a big test going and playing in a whole different country, I guess, if we're going to call it that way, and playing and try to get acclimated. I'm taking the Jets here, fellas. Something tells me that 5-0 seems just a little bit steep for Minnesota. 5-0 is significantly less likely than 4-0. I believe it's like a 27% drop to go from 4-0 to 5-0, kind of continue that pace. But I think this will just be a situation where Aaron Rodgers just gets back to the way he looked a couple weeks ago, and he'll just go back to slinging it. I think the big thing too for Aaron Rodgers, this is something we haven't really talked about, is this offensive line that they kind of pieced together going into the season with veterans. It's paid off, right? It's kind of the 1-year plan deal that they put together, but it's really paid off. I believe he's only been sacked 4 times through 4 weeks, or 5 times through 4 weeks, something like that. So giving him the opportunity to, as Corey said it last week, just throw the ball better than anybody's ever done it. Shows what what this Jets offense is capable of. But I'm kind of confused. What's going on with Breece Hall, fellas? It's like 2 weeks in a row of
Mediocre.
like lower level performance. I mean, obviously, they drafted Braylon Allen. He's a freak, just athletically, just the way that he's built, so he can kind of take the load off. But It just seems kind of the run game's been a little slow to start, minus week 1 for New York.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm kind of surprised to even hear the complaint about Breece Hall, if I'm being quite honest. Like 2 weeks ago against the Patriots, 24-3 game. Like, I don't think that game ever felt out of reach. Like, yeah, let's get Allen some touches. Breece still found the end zone. I know he didn't have the yards per carry we're used to, but he's still a big part of that offense, and he still had 4 receptions for 30 yards. And then last week, like, I'm sorry, it was just a rainy game against a really great defense. Like I'm not really that concerned about it. But just since I jumped in there, I'm going to take the Vikings. Where do Vikings hail from, guys? Europe. Let's go.
This is a straight vibes pick.
No, I think the Vikings have proven through 4 weeks that they're, a tier 1 team.
Yeah. I would completely agree with that. I'm not completely sold on the fact that Aaron Rodgers has that connection with the receivers and that rapport built just yet. Is it coming? Absolutely. They got a lot of talent in that wide receiver room there in New York. I don't think it's going to happen this week against the Vikings. Their defense has been stellar. That offense is humming. I see no reason to fade the Vikings. I do believe they push on to 5-0. And they could. I think the Chiefs. Well, we'll get to that later, but I do believe the Vikings will continue their train here and move to 5-0. So, Corey, who you got?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really good football game. And Todd, I've been trying to find areas to fade you, and I thought this was going to be one of them, but unfortunately, we're in simpatico here on this one. I think I'm taking the Jets.
Hoots.
I think this is going to be a tough task for the. I think I'm kind of at this point where if I'm going to be wrong on this one, I'm going to fade the Vikings again next week, just because it just continues to get harder to win that many games in a row. And so eventually I'm going to be right, I think, unless history is made. So from that standpoint, I am going to fade the Vikings here. Also, just a little history lesson. The Vikings were not able to fully conquer England. So they made it, they made inroads, but they were never actually fully able to conquer England. So if we're going to use history here, what's that?
Who was able to fully conquer England?
No one, exactly. So,
so
actually,
they're due, according to Todd.
Hey, hey,
yeah, sounds like an 0-0 record. Sounds like they're due.
Skull.
You heard of Blitzkrieg?
Yeah.
Bombs dropped by jets. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
Alan Lazard over 30 reception touchdown.
I'm sorry. Who won that one?
America. Anyway. Anyway, yeah, I'm taking the
England
Jets
still eats like it.
Bounce back week for Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I'll tell you, whether you fade or ride the Vikings next week, Corey, you're going to be right. So,
what's that?
I said whether you fade or ride the Vikings next week, you're going to be right.
If I fade or ride the Vikings next week, I'm going to be right.
They're on a bye.
Okay.
So.
I was like,
you had made
so I get an extra point next week, is what you're saying, Bob?
No, absolutely not.
Just said it. Said I'm going to be right.
Shut up. All right. Moving on. We've got the Red Rifle led Carolina Panthers headed into Chicago to take on the Bears.
Speaking of backups playing better.
Yeah. Andy Dolphin's got that offense in Carolina humming.
Just call him Andy Dolphin.
He did. Yeah, I was going to let it slide.
Did I say Dolphin?
Yeah, he did. You're thinking about Bryce Young getting traded to the Dolphins. I think that's what's cooking in that brain ahead.
Maybe I'm just stroking out over here, but yeah, yeah. I hope not. I hope not as well. Corey, I will let you lead this one off, sir. Bears at home versus the Panthers. Who you got?
Bears at home.
Harp saying Panthers by 10. Whoa.
We don't even ask for points, and that's bold.
I like it.
It's a bold strategy. Boy.
So this one opened up at -5.5. The line has since moved to -4 for the Bears at home. Bears have been heavily favored in a lot of their games, and don't look now, but the Bears are a 500 football team. I think they get above 500 this week. I think they take the win. I am confident that this team will continue to figure things out. We've talked a lot about how bad the Bengals defense is. Overall, they did enough, and they did a decent job, I think, in a football game in stopping the Carolina Panthers offense that absolutely lit up the Las Vegas Raiders with Andy Dalton. I mean, Andy looked pretty good. I think he's playing, really well. The biggest thing is Chuba Hubbard, as Aaron says, is the straw that stirs the drink there for that team and that offense. So I'll be interested to see how Chicago adjusts to that. Andy Dalton was kept relatively clean. Chicago has the tools in the kit to make that not the case for Andy. And if any Bengals fans out there, we watched nearly a decade of Andy Dalton football. You know how to make him fail is to make him scramble, move around, improvise, things like that. If he's cleaning in the pocket, he's really effective. But if he has to, get all over the place and he's avoiding pressure, that's where mistakes happen. Fun fact, Carolina, the best pass blocking offensive line in the NFL by far.
Really?
Wow.
By far. There's a 16% win rate on pass rushes against that Carolina offensive line. The next,
That's horrible.
Do they have any spare?
I mean, for the defense, not for the.
Oh,
offense.
I was gonna say what?
Like I'm just saying.
The next.
No, I'm saying like it's horrible for every defense that walks in.
The next best offensive line is somewhere in the low to mid 20%. So it's a significant, and then everybody is like mid 20%. Everybody's like kind of stacked up in the top 10. But Carolina, as of right now, has a substantial lead in that category. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, it is kind of a little fun factotum. And what it really shows us is that we don't know anything yet. We don't know anything. We're doing our best to make our picks based on what we've seen and what we think we know from last year. But the story has not been written yet. The rest is still unwritten, if you will. So
excellent quote.
So as I stare at this blank page before me and I open up a dirty window, I'm going to take the Chicago Bears.
Clean your window.
Gotcha.
Just clean your window.
That was very clever, sir. So Ariel popped in the chat and said Chicago has the longest home active win streak at 7 games in a row at home.
Wow.
Very interesting stat. Thanks for bringing that up. And the reason you bring that up is the reason why I'm going to fade the Bears. You got to fade the streak, bro. This your rule, Corey.
It is, but guess what, Bobby? It hadn't been working out too well for me this year.
That's okay. This is one of those games for me personally this week. It's a coin flip. I like the way the Panthers are working with Andy Dalton. I haven't seen a lot out of the Bears. They obviously showed a little bit of promise last week, but outside of that shade that we saw last week, they still had the potential to lose that game. So I'm going to take a team that has had a change of pace. They've got Andy Dalton there. Things are firing. And I'm going to take the Panthers on the road on a flyer. So I'm going to fade the Bears here. Todd, who you got?
Yeah, I think the main thing from watching that game Sunday is this receiving group in Carolina is outside Deontay Johnson is I'll say dangerously young. 5 drop passes, 4 of those being fairly wide open. With a good veteran quarterback, you can't help the dropsies, right? It is what it is.
Yep.
But I will say, at least outside of quarterback, it does seem like Carolina has done a nice job over the last 4 years that offensive line is homegrown, and to hear that stat of them having the best win rate on a pass rush is, there is something there, right? The foundation is being built somewhere, right? It just stinks that as of right now, the quarterback you drafted for your future is, laid a massive goose egg. But so I'm not gonna go away from Chicago at home and fade a win streak like Bobby's kind of so bravely done here himself. I think something we have seen over the last 2 weeks is Caleb Williams be more cerebral on how he's throwing the ball and not trying to be big play Caleb all the time. I think that's the thing we saw the first couple weeks, and it attributed to 3 interceptions against Houston. Is he was kind of going through the same scheme of, I'm in the pocket for 2 seconds, let me run around, and then I'm going to air it out. Right? We watched him last week against Los Angeles. Be calculated, move the ball around, try to get to the first down marker on 2 or 3 downs instead of trying to throw a 40, 50-yard bomb on 2nd and 8. Watched him do that a lot against Houston. Just pretty puzzling. But I think that the main thing for me, if I'm looking at Chicago as a whole, is is Shane Waldron going to be the right answer for Caleb Williams? It sounds like that's already kind of stirred up in the Bears locker room of him being confronted about his play calling and things like that. But I don't think this is the week where Chicago falls apart, right? Offensively, I think Carolina is a good team to continue to allow Caleb to figure his way out in the league.
Absolutely. Aaron, wrap it up.
Yeah, one of the things I love about the fade the streak or just like ride the wave is you can easily talk yourself into either side.
Yeah.
But as we just saw Bob and Todd do, it was great. Well, I mean, obviously they're due, and you're like, well, they're fucking hot. I'm not going against them. It's like it's just the equivalent of like the person in the business meeting who's like, it's got to find that balance. We just got to find that balance, and then it's like, oh, this guy's a genius. So
We should promote him.
Yeah. One of you guys is going to look fucking great on Sunday, and I can't wait to. I just think the other one needs to rub it in their face. Interesting thing about the Bears is they've really been right in this zone, right? Of they've scored between 19 and 24 points in their first 4 games. So we haven't seen like in just an outright offensive stinker. That first game, obviously, we know the defense helped them out a little bit, put points on the board, but still the team is finding ways to kind of get right in that zone. Point wise, and since we've seen Dalton take over at quarterback in Carolina, we've seen the offensive numbers tick up a little bit. So it's going to be rubber meets the road. I think this is actually going to be a surprisingly good fought game. I think it's going to come down to maybe a field goal at the end of the game. I'm going to take the Panthers.
Let's go.
It's just one of those games. I think it's a coin flip, and I think this is one of those games that the Panthers can steal. You take a look at the Bears' schedule; it softens a little bit. They lose this game; it's not the end of the world. But I still think the Bears are trying to figure who they are out. I agree with you guys. Caleb has been playing a lot better lately. I think he's going to be a good quarterback, but he's still going to have these rookie growing pains.
Sure. Well, Aaron, I'll toss it right back to you, man. Obviously, our resident Cleveland fan here. We got the Browns taking things to the nation's capital, taking on the fucking red hot Commanders.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Boys, it's been out of nothing but necessity over the last 3 years because we haven't had any picks, but 2025 NFL mock draft has made its way into the Google search bar.
Oh shit!
Jesus.
I know. I'm just gonna keep it real with you guys. That's where we're at. All right. I haven't had to do it in a while, and even when we had them picks, that was usually like a barrier moment in the season of like I would never look. The only time it's breaking case of glass where I'm like I need some hopium. I need to breathe it in. I need something to get me through the goddamn day.
Sure.
It's bad here, guys. It's fucking bad. The offensive line is terrible. Surprisingly enough, you actually saw Deshaun Watson play one of his best games last week. And, it all starts and ends with the quarterback. And it's, unfortunately a win-loss record for them. But, there were some questionable calls there at the end that took a 80-yard touchdown off the board, which was unfortunate. But I also don't necessarily think the Browns, played inspired football, for whatever Amari Cooper's out here just straight up quiet quitting. It's really hard. It's really hard to watch right now.
You one of them quiet quitters.
And we got,
talk to that, Aaron. What do you mean? What happened?
Amari Cooper has just been dropping footballs left and right. He had one, it hit him directly in the chest, popped up, and it was an interception as we were driving and at least in field goal range on that drive. We've seen countless balls that have gone through either Amari's hands, bounce off his chest. It's, he's been a very solid, guy in this league. And I think you're going to see, we've seen the speculation already about, the Chiefs are going to come call in and whoever it might be. And, it's starting to get to the point where you got to look at it and say, we've given away these picks in the past and it might be time to restock the cupboard. We gotta, get some money for Andrew Berry to go grocery shopping, really. And we just haven't had the ability to do that. Commanders are, like you said, Bob, they are red hot coming into this one. I am 0-4 picking on the Browns this year. And I think that'll change this week. I'm going to take the Commanders. They're the better football team right now. This isn't even a hedging my happiness. I have never, as sad as this is to say, like, so disinterested in this Browns team right now, and it's basically the effort that they're putting on the field.
Sure.
They're just playing very listless and uninspired. It's very, very tough to watch. Obviously, the injuries are piling on. Myles Garrett is battling an injury on both feet. And that he's the captain on that defense. So it's tough right now. But I mean, I'll throw it to you guys here. Daniels is playing. I mean, he's the rookie of the year, like easily. Like it's not even a question, debate, or there's a comparison.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely argue, like, even if like he got hurt and the season like continued, like what he's done these first 4 weeks has been incredible.
The Monday night loss hurts less.
Yeah. I agree 110%, dude. I felt watching that game, I felt like a little bit of the anger got pressed down just enough where I'm like, all right, well, he's doing it again. So there's something here. Right.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that none of us thought were going to be intimidating in any way, shape, or form.
It's supposed to be.
And this team, like, if they are on your schedule moving forward, you're like, holy shit, what are we gonna do? Like, this kid's playing out of his mind.
Wearing his hat backwards.
Yeah,
these kids are having fun.
I mean, toot my own horn, I guess. I knew that. I thought the Commanders had a sneaky chance. I
had the Commanders too. Yeah,
I talked about Jaden Daniels being probably
You've been high on him all year,
if not the best quarterback that was drafted. I talked about all of the weapons that they have on that offense. The biggest question was their defense, and that still is the question. And just looking at this game, that's how the Browns win, is they roll the momentum that Deshaun Watson built last week, and they come in and attack this defense that's going to give up points. This is going to be a shootout. And unfortunately, I still think that the Commanders have a more polished offense right now than does Cleveland. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think that this is let's take a look at what Vegas has to say on this one. This opened at a -3.5. The line has since moved to -3, but Vegas is giving up 10 more cents per dollar, or they're taking 10 more cents per dollar. It went from -110 to -120. So Vegas is saying, okay, we'll give you that half point, but you're going to have to pay for it. So they're pretty confident in the Commanders. I'm not going to stray from that. Never mind. I'm not even going to say what I was going to say. I'll take the Commanders.
This does kind of feel like one of those games though, where we make our picks on Wednesday and we're like, I'm pretty sure about this one. And then it just comes Sunday and you're like, well, what the hell's it like? The NFL is wild and unpredictable. I could easily see the Browns winning this game. It's just, there's momentum going into opposite directions of these two teams.
Right.
No, I completely get it. I'm not going to fade the Commanders. I haven't seen enough out of Deshaun Watson for me to even have any ounce of confidence in that offense. And like you said, Amari Cooper he's checked out. He's ready to go. Kind of like Ariel, I know you want to talk to Devontae Adams. We're going to be at that game here shortly. But I think there's a lot of receivers on some teams that have some opportunity that are ready to find a new home. And I think Amari Cooper is one of them. So I'm taking the Commanders here, riding the hot hand, and we'll see if they can get it done at home. Todd.
Yeah, I'm taking the Commanders too here, fellas. And I do want to mention their defense pretty briefly, or one specific player. Johnny Newton got to play last week's projected first-round pick for the majority of the college football season last year. Had an injury towards the back end of the season. Traded up for him in the second round. Took snaps away from Daron Payne in that game, fellas. That's a guy that they paid pretty decent money a couple of years ago to stick around, and Newton ended up taking the majority of the snaps in the second half. Whether that was, they had enough lead that they allowed him to get those snaps and make mistakes. But I saw him in the backfield several times, super fast off the ball. I think that's something Aaron Donald kind of transcended that for these smaller defensive tackles, right? Call them whatever they are. But I watched him pretty extensively Sunday, and I like his game. I think that that's something that Washington honed in on. Obviously, Dan Quinn's a good defensive mind. He knows talent when he sees it. But, yeah, I'm taking the Commanders here too, fellas. You've talked everything that we need to talk about for them.
Sure. Just want to give a big shout out to everybody that has stopped by so far. John, Andrew, Carp, Mrs. James, saw you swing in.
Hey, baby.
Obviously, all the regulars. I know we're kind of on here late on Wednesdays, so if you guys don't catch us live, we're on Spotify and Apple Music and Podbean. So feel free to catch them tomorrow morning once they're uploaded. So, all right, boys, let's move on to a divisional matchup that should be quite the snooze fest. We've got the Dolphins taking things in New England to battle the Patriots.
Bobby, it would have been so fucking metal if you were like the Ravens going into Cincinnati.
That's where he was going too.
That would have been the most.
Nope.
Fucking
I'm not
metal
going to do
thing.
you guys dirty like that because that's going to be a damn good football game, and you guys know it.
We'll get to that one.
But yeah, it's coming up here shortly. But yeah, we got the Dolphins. Obviously, super banged up. It was really sad to see Jalen Phillips' IG post today. He is out for the season again.
Dude can't catch a break.
ACL injury this time. Last year it was an Achilles. This year it's an ACL. What a talent he is on the defensive side of the ball, and it just sucks. He's just one of those guys that you're like, he's not on your team, but like he's so good. You want him to stay healthy. And it's just very, very demoralizing he's staying positive through it all from what it seems like, but man, it's got to be absolutely just like devastating. And then I don't know. It just sucks. It's like J.K. Dobbins. Like, I know he was a Raven, but it was like, man, the dude's so talented. You just hate to see him get hurt every single year. And it just seems like that's what's happening to him. So, Aaron, lead us off on this one, man. Dolphins on the road, New England. Who you got?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, this is a snooze fest. You can't trust the Dolphins until Tua is back. That offense can't do anything. And Corey, you've been on
They got
Mike
Snoop
McDaniels
Huntley this
over
week.
it.
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, they had him.
The guy that
they
threw
had him
for
last week,
94
too.
yards last week.
Yeah. Corey's had his, let's just call it disdain for McDaniel. And I've been on the other side of that. And I mean, I'm certainly not saying he's a terrible coach by any means, but you're running this offense where you have a revolving door of quarterbacks in there, and you have to shape that to who you have on your team. And there has been not a single shred of evidence that they're willing to do that. And great, you have all these great schemes and
Do we lose
Hey,
him?
Aaron.
style.
There he is. Sorry, you timed out for a second.
I mean, all I'm saying is you got to pick those handful of plays that you have in your playbook that everybody's known, since high school. Get these guys in a rhythm, and then let's maybe try to dial up a little bit more difficulty. But let's install 15 fucking plays that we know we can utilize. Devon Achane was ripping off 6 yards a carry when you had Tua in there. You can't tell me that that's solely on the fact that Tua was playing quarterback. I understand the motion confuses the defense, but let's run the fucking ball and let's play action out of it from there. Okay. I know Mike McDaniel understands the West Coast offense.
100%, Aaron. And that's the thing is like you have an offense in Miami that is predicated on one thing only, and that's speed. I digress. It's built on speed and putting the ball in the right place. And so when you get somebody that's just not as good at that, you just get that much worse at what you're supposed to be doing.
I thought you were going to say speed.
Well, they're built on speed and hitting receivers with passes.
Yeah.
That's what they're built on, and even out of the running game. And so when you become one dimensional because you're not as good at throwing the football, you don't have anything else. They don't have anything else ready to go. They don't, and that's, again, we've talked about this a lot, and I think that this is why a guy like Kevin Stefanski is one of the best coaches in the league. And I think a guy like Sean McVay, who obviously is one of the best coaches in the league. And I mean, Andy Reid has the accolades and stuff, but what it boils down to for me is that when shit hits the fan, what does the team do? What is the team's and that is the makeup of a coach for me. And that's why I've always kind of just not I hadn't ever really said that McDaniel was a bad coach. I never really said that. I just said I'm not
You're not buying the
all
hype.
on him.
Yeah,
I'm not buying it yet. I got to see more. And I was there, and that's how
Which
I
is
am
fair.
with Sirianni. And I don't
Which
know.
is
I'm
extremely
taking the
valid.
Patriots here as well. We'll get to the Eagles, I think, a little bit later. But do they have a bye this
they're on
week?
a bye.
They're
Yeah.
on a bye
Yeah,
this
okay.
week.
Yeah. A
Well,
much
while we're
needed
on the
bye.
subject, fraudulent enemy number one. I don't think that there's any question about that. The Eagles are in trouble. The Eagles are in big trouble.
Yeah, that offensive
Uh,
line in Philly is a ginormous question mark.
Can't stop a nosebleed with a pack of tissues. You know what I'm saying?
I think you guys alluded to it though. If the Dolphins want to win this week, they've got to use that 1-2 punch of A-Chain and Mostert, barring they're both healthy. That run game last year was the single thing that just opened that offense wide. Like it was the one thing that got them going every single. Like it didn't matter. Like at least fantasy wise, like it didn't matter if you had A-Chain or Mostert. It didn't matter. Like they were both dropping like 20, 30 points a game, depending on how your league was scored. Like they ran the ball so effectively last year, and it made Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill that much more useful. It kept Tua off his back and throwing the football. Like that was the one thing that got them going was the run game. And I think it's hurt them this year that both of them didn't start the season healthy. But that being said, there's too much going on down there in Miami that I just can't get on board with. This is a coin flip for me. It's a divisional game. I'm going to ride with the home team. I think the Dolphins have the ability to come back at some point. Whether or not Tua comes back, they just need to get every piece on that offense healthy. I'm going to take the Patriots here. Todd.
Yeah, I'm taking the Pats here too, fellas. I'm not gonna. This isn't a game where I fade you guys and feel good about it, right? I got to see a touchdown before I even talk about sniffing out a pick for them.
Right.
Plus, you gotta talk more. Like it's even off the field at this point is where we're at with Miami, right? You're seeing the frustration boil over into the public eye now, and if you're seeing it on the sidelines, it's been happening in the locker room for a couple of weeks now at this point,
For
right?
sure.
Like because these guys know how to conduct themselves in the public eye. These guys know how to conduct themselves on the sideline, and for Tyreek Hill to lose his shit on the sideline for a while. It just shows that, what do I have to lose at this point? I don't I have to say something, I think is where Tyreek's at.
I mean, I think a part of that stems from, I think Tyreek's a little bit bitter that he chased the money. Personally, I think that if he would have stayed in Kansas City, like Kansas City would be continue to be unstoppable for just no reason at all. But we do have a couple of comments rolling in the chat. Anthony said quarterback play has been pretty poor thus far across the board. And
Not my quarterback.
and Ariel saying
Not
it's
if you were
a
drafted
perfect
in
game to start Drake
2018.
May. I mean,
I would say it's just the quarterbacks that have played well, other than a couple, right? Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. I think Patrick Mahomes is playing okay. Outside of that, it's
The gap is wider than it's ever been for quarterback.
No. I guess what I'm saying is it's just not who you expect.
Well,
I'd be remiss if I didn't throw Jared Goff in there as well. Jared Goff is playing pretty well.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of put
18 throws.
I was gonna kind of put Goff and Burrow in the same thing where it's like they had their first great week last week. Like the first couple
Burrow
of weeks
pretty
of the
much played
season.
perfect against Washington.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 weeks, but first
pretty
2
good
games this
against Kansas
season he was
City,
not
too.
great. But
He played really good against Kansas City. What are we talking about here? Are we
Yeah, dude, he
rewriting
did.
history? Are we rewriting history right now?
okay. Well, that being said, you have guys like Justin Fields who continue to get better every week. Jared Goff had his first. I have Jared Goff in fantasy football. Jared Goff's first good week was last week.
Yeah, but probably fantasy football is not an indication on how.
Yeah,
well
but
somebody's
when you look
playing
at
in
stats,
football.
when you look at yards,
they're not the
you
same,
look at
though.
touchdowns, I get it. But
As a pure receiver last week, Jared Goff lapped Kyle Pitts.
he certainly did. He certainly did. And I just learned that Antoine Randall is a receivers coach for Detroit, which was
Yes.
also hilarious. And
Is
they
he-
made a
is
joke
he-
about it on the sidelines. That he's not. There was Amon-Ra wasn't the only person to be a receiver that has thrown a touchdown pass, and everybody's like, "Who else was it?" And they're like, "Him," and he's like, "Ah!" It's pretty funny. But Randall did it in the Super Bowl and threw it to Hines Ward, so that was pretty cool.
Fuck that guy.
Great quarterback for the University of Indiana. I don't remember him any other time other than his college career.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
That's
he
all I have.
retired. Yeah.
Pretty sure. He
I
was
only
pretty-
remember him as being a dual threat quarterback for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, you just had
that's
to
it.
wipe. You just had to wipe his NFL career from your brain.
That's pretty
He
irrelevant.
never played, Bob.
I love you guys. All right. Well, let's move on. We've got the Indianapolis Colts headed down to Jacksonville. Colts coming off a close win over the Steelers and the Jags. I cannot get on board with this team.
Dude, isn't it just hilarious that Doug Peterson is pretending to be surprised that people are asking him if he's worried about his job? It's like,
Status
Dude.
of what?
yeah, what are you talking about? Like, dude, put down the dab rig and get back into the fucking game because you're gonna get fired if you keep losing. Like, I was ready to say Zach Taylor would get fired if they lost to the Panthers. Like, he'd at least be really fucking close, right? And Doug Peterson, like, you're in the same situation. You've got a quarterback on his second deal. $250,000 of $1 billion, rather. $250 million is allocated to Trevor Lawrence in this football team. It's time to go. It's time to go. And if it ain't working, you got to change shit up. And it's a hell of a lot. Aaron always says it's a hell of a lot easier to fire a head coach than it is to fire a $250 million quarterback. Hell of a lot easier.
Yeah.
Or
Wild.
so I'm told.
But they get their first win this week, baby. They're jagging off and Duval.
You taking the Jags?
Yeah, I'm taking the Jags.
Oh boy. All right. Who wants to go next?
Well, I thought I was going to get to. I was going to
Go ahead.
fade the boys, but I already got fucked on that. Thanks a lot, Corey. I'm taking the Jags. I'm taking the Jags too. I'm
Well,
not gonna-
so I guess now you guys are even because he was gonna fade us and
Well,
take
Todd
the
and I have
Jets.
picked every game the same so far.
yeah,
Yeah, you guys did the same
Just-
shit last week too.
just pissing
With the
me
exception of the Raiders Browns game, you guys were dead ass even. So
off. Great
Makes
minds
sense.
think alike. That's what I just heard you say.
Yeah, left side, baby.
Forgive
Ron.
me because all of my things on the chat just say Facebook user. So who's the one here that
it
with
right
the
here.
Colts or that said
that's
the Colts
Ariel.
haven't won in Jacksonville. So that was the stat I was going to bring up as well. So I appreciate it in the chat.
Nice pull.
The Colts haven't won their last 9 games in Jacksonville. I don't know what it is.
yikes.
For a divisional matchup, that's very rare to see, especially for teams who I think, let's face it, the last 9 years haven't exactly like it's not like they've been, so far apart in terms of how we view these teams. I'm taking the Jaguars as well, guys.
God damn it.
Well, it sounds
It's-
like I get to fucking fade the boys and the streak. Let's fucking ride.
You have to fade 2 streaks though, because the Jaguars haven't won fucking 8 games yet or a game in their last 8. Colts haven't
Yep.
won their last 9.
Yeah,
in
so it
Indianapolis.
balances
So
out.
which one is it, Bobby?
It
Which one are you
balances out.
fading?
I'm either way. I paid the streak and it's gonna hit.
Yeah, so that's why.
Can't triple stamp a double stamp. That's the
true.
moral of the story here.
Read that in a book.
I can and I will.
In a
book. I'm taking the Colts. I'm assuming Joe Flacco is going to be the quarterback. It's not.
I
gonna be Anthony
don't think.
Richardson.
I don't know.
I think
Richardson's
Anthony
gonna play.
Richardson's going to play. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. He'll probably go out in the first quarter because he doesn't know how to slide. So it'll be Joe Flacco anyway. I'm gonna take the Joe Flacco led Colts over the Jacksonville Jaguars. I
means if
cannot believe in
Richardson wins, you don't get
I
it.
just can't believe in the better looking version of Daniel Jones, which is Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is not a good quarterback, and I don't know why he got so much money. But I am taking the Colts here, and I think the Colts are going to win pretty handedly. So that's all I have to say there.
I'm not ready to. I'm not ready. To
Jonathan Taylor's
crucify
probably
it.
not playing too. playing either, though. That's a factor.
I'm not ready
Sorry,
to
Corey, go ahead.
crucify Trevor Lawrence yet. I have concerns for sure. But I think this guy still has what it takes to be a really good quarterback in the league. Because I've seen him make really, 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 really good throws. So I know that he has that. I think what we're watching right now is a team that's being led by the blind, and it's Doug Peterson. And there's a reason Philadelphia moved on from him. So you're getting sloppy seconds. There's only really one time where that worked out well, and it's the biggest anomaly in all of sports, winning 6 Super Bowls with a 7th round draft pick, right? This is not a tried and true situation here. Jimmy Johnson didn't go to Miami and just like make the Dolphins really, really, really like Super Bowl winning teams. It didn't happen that way. There's a reason that moved on from Doug Peterson in Philadelphia, and I gotta think that all of the college scouts that watched Trevor Lawrence weren't wrong, and that all of the NFL scouts that watched Trevor Lawrence weren't wrong, because if there's anybody else sitting in that spot and they needed a quarterback, they were drafting Trevor Lawrence too. Every single team would have taken him if they needed a quarterback, and so I get it. And I have questions too, Bob, and I'm not trying to dismiss where you're at by any means, because I get it, but I'm just not ready yet. I have those same questions about Justin Herbert, and I think that those are valid as well. But what we're seeing, and Aaron kind of alluded to this last week, I think it's a really good point, is like there's kind of like an arc that's happening, and it's like a reverse bell curve, right? And these guys come out of the gate really hot, like Baker and even Justin Herbert. And I don't know if you could throw Sam Darnold into that starting really hot bucket, but Trevor Lawrence as well. And then it dips down. And for these other guys that are a little bit later in their career, it's coming back up. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I get it, and I'm speculating. I'm just not quite ready to put that final nail in the coffin yet.
Sure.
And Corey, that's exactly what I was saying last week, where I just don't see how we can go, wow, look at Darnold, look at Baker, look at Geno, and then be like, Trevor's dead. I just like, it's like this year has kind of been a referendum on that. And I think it would be premature to say that for Trevor. And I think you bring up a good point when you talk about Herbert too. And let's not forget, guys, though, Corey, you were talking about, I don't think all the scouts are wrong. I'm not necessarily saying that's true either, but our best scouted players are drafted into the worst fucking situations possible.
Yeah, facts.
Sure.
So yeah, let's, sometimes that takes some growing pains to get over. These guys have gone also, maybe losing 1, 2, 3, 4 games in their careers between high school and college, and then they get drafted to teams that won 2 games last year. Like,
also, what is that front office done for? What have they done there for Trevor Lawrence? Like, we want to talk about Calvin Ridley. Why do we want to talk about where is Calvin Ridley in terms of an impact player? Yeah, he's got 1,000 yards because he's been the main option. He's been the only option there. Trevor Lawrence
he's also in Tennessee now.
Right, exactly, for good reason. He went into their same division, right? What else do I want to? Oh, I mean, they're lockdown corner, shipping him off. Get it, Jalen Ramsey's out of there, gone.
Right.
The only thing that they've done is made Josh Allen the defender. They extended him, but where are these other pieces that you're seeing all of these other teams have? I'm just not seeing it in Jacksonville.
Yeah, other moves that they've made of just like 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Tez, I know you're going back and forth saying Josh taking all the away teams, but I still need your pick for this game for the Colts on the road versus the Jags. So stop talking shit, put a pick in. All right, with that being said, let's move on. Speaking of Josh Allen, we're going to talk about the other Josh Allen, the quarterback. He is headed to Houston to take on CJ Stroud and the Texans. I think this should be a pretty good game. Hopefully, we'll see though. Todd, I'll let you start this one off. Bills on the road versus Houston. Who you got?
So Houston, I think all three of their wins within 4 points of victory, right? 5 points, something like that.
Yep.
Obviously, I said at the beginning of this, the Ravens had just pummeled the Bills. There was no moment where it felt like that the Bills were really within a grasp, other than the beginning of the first quarter when they scored. That being said, I think that this is just back to the usual for Buffalo getting into this game. I think Houston's still kind of going through, let's call it the sophomore slump across the board, right? Sophomore head coach, OC, quarterback, right? Like
Yeah,
you're kind of in
3-1.
this. Yeah, right. Yeah, 3-1 with but I'm saying like it's not, it's not 40 points a game that they're putting up anymore. Now it's reasonable numbers that are happening. They do get in. As of right now, Joe Mixon is back, and I think that offense ran really well with him in the backfield. I had read that he at least participated in practice today. I don't know if he was limited or whatever, but what I had read about Houston is that they're working on trying to bring him back Sunday in some capacity. I think that his week 1 performance was hand over fist, the best that he's done probably in 10 to 12 weeks of football. That having a good run game. But I think the real thing from Houston that's been my biggest concern with them is a lot
Todd,
of
just real quick before you make your pick, I just want to give you information from Adam Schefter 5 hours ago. Both Joe Mixon and Damian Pierce were listed as non-participants in practice today.
Oh, non-participants. So I read it wrong. That's my bad. The biggest issue I've seen from Houston thus far is it's mental mistakes, right? It's penalties on the ball. That's the big thing that's killed them. And kind of the centerpiece of that is Laramie Tunsil. He's made a lot of errors. He has the lowest PFF grade that he's had ever being in the NFL. I think that's, that is what it is. But, the thing that kind of trudged Houston through last year was the ability for CJ Stroud to be a playmaker. And that window is it's shortened for him, right? It's a lot more getting the ball out a little bit sooner, trying to, maneuver around in the pocket. Whereas last year it felt like he just always had plenty of time to make the right move. I think Buffalo is going to capitalize on that. They've done a good job thus far, putting pressure on the quarterback. Josh Allen has played great other than 1 week. So get right game for Buffalo. I think this is still a good game, but I'm taking Buffalo here.
Sure, Corey.
Yeah, I struggle with this one.
Great game.
It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
should be
tough.
one of the better games on the slate.
Yeah, no doubt. I think 47 is a joke for an over-under. I think this smashes that. Fun betting note, ladies and gentlemen. Now is time to start betting on a Josh Allen interception. He is perfect so far in the year with 0 interceptions. That will change at some point unless he defies all logic and shatters any records. Josh Allen will throw an interception at some point this year. So if you've got the bankroll, start low, but start betting on a Josh Allen interception and roll it over every week until it inevitably hits. Yeah, Todd, I think this is the one, buddy. I think I got to fade you here just for the sake of strategy.
Let's do it.
And take the home team. I think I got to take the Texans. So let me talk myself into this.
Let me back in here. Parallel park this guy.
So
Parallel park an 18-wheeler. Let's ride.
The only way that I could see this happening is that the Ravens exposed something in Buffalo last week, and from a defensive standpoint, that Houston's going to be able to, take advantage of. So from somebody that, one of the best defensive coaches in the league, I think that with DeMeco Ryans, I think should and can find a way to, exploit that. And the other thing we talked about is Houston's been scraping by and getting wins. And I think that at some point that kind of serves to a team's advantage is how to win close games. And I think anyone would be foolish to think that this isn't going to be a close football game. This is. This is absolutely going to be a close football game. So Buffalo knows how to win blowout games. They know how to do that. They know how to get up big on somebody and then just lean on James Cook. What's going to be a question is, can Buffalo scratch back and win a game? Right. So that's going to be the test. And obviously it didn't happen against Baltimore. We're not going to crucify Buffalo for that. But I am going to just, in a coin flip opportunity, I had the advantage of picking after you. I'm going to take the Texans here.
I like it.
Aaron.
Yeah, no, I think that's more than fair, and I think that's good strategy. I listen, Houston, I don't really know how to put my finger on it, but like Houston's just been weird this year, and I think a lot of it has to do with just the expectations that were put upon them based on how they,
Sure.
played last year. And I think they're probably still a little ahead of schedule. Is there a skill position though, other than Nico Collins has put himself more on the map in these first 4 weeks? I mean, this guy,
In the league?
in the league, I think he's your
Malik
your
Neighbors.
new.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but
fair.
Malik Neighbors also kind of came with the name brand of being drafted that high anyway. You know
He's
what
a
I
rookie,
mean?
though.
And I think a GM who had to pick for this season would take Nico Collins over Neighbors.
I don't know about that.
For
I
this,
don't-
for
I don't
this year,
necessarily
for this
agree with
year,
that.
for this year alone. I'm not saying
I don't
like,
know.
You're
I
drafting
disagree
for
with
the
that.
future. Okay, fair enough.
I'm not
Um,
disagreeing. I'm just saying I don't think it's like a definitive one way or the other.
I guess what I'm saying is I think Nico Collins has established himself as a true wide receiver one. And
Yeah, he's not a one-trick
numbers
pony
he is.
anymore. Yeah,
Yeah,
you are right
exactly.
about that because he was
Yeah.
kind of just a deep ball threat, right? That was his.
Exactly.
That was his claim to fame last year and it arose from unfortunately Tank Dell being injured, but I see
Right.
where you're coming from though.
Yeah, he's
Like,
competing at all levels. Like I've been very impressed with what I've seen out of him through the young season. But moving over to Buffalo, and I've seen people talk about it in the chat. Hey, this is Diggs versus Buffalo. Doesn't have the same juice as if this game were in Buffalo, but I'm gonna take the reverse here, guys. It's the Bills versus Diggs. I think they have every right to be pissed off at him. I think there's a lot of bad blood in that locker room potentially for that attitude. And I think you're going to see an entire team kind of get together and be like, let's go in there and let's blow the doors off. Is that going to transpire specifically, Corey? I'm not necessarily sure. I like where your head's at and saying this is going to be a close game. And, Buffalo knows how to win blowouts. Certainly I think that's more than true. But I think the Bills, Josh Allen is playing really, really good football. Not last week, obviously not as withstanding, but that game got away from them very quickly. It felt like with Derrick Henry running downhill. But yeah, I'm going to take the Bills here. I think this is going to be a great measuring stick though for both of these teams.
Yeah. I on the other end of that, like I have not been that impressed with the Texans. I can't remember which one of you said it, Corey. I believe it was you saying CJ Stroud was going to take a step back this year. Year two.
And that was just purely based on gut and the
Sure,
way I saw him carrying himself.
But it's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
He has definitely not been as impressive as he was last year.
Yeah.
Josh Allen has been super consistent. They obviously played a fantastic team last week in the Baltimore Ravens. Derrick Henry looked like vintage Derrick Henry, running for 1 yard shy of 200, ripping off an 87-yard touchdown where he topped out at 22 miles per hour, which is just inhuman at the age of 30.
So he's going to be tired this week.
No, he was in the gym Monday morning. He was the first one in the gym working out, per report.
He does.
He's a robot.
For a second, he does defy what body composition speed thing, right? Like it doesn't really make sense for someone to be able to run that fast at 250. I just want to make sure that.
I mean,
That's out there.
F-150's got a lot of
you're
pickup. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like once he gets going, though, who's going to get in front of that?
Me.
He defies the logic,
Hilton.
Todd, but it's also the position that he plays too. Like he defies
Sure.
the logic in that way too.
Yeah.
The shelf life, just for his age in general, I don't care what position he's playing, you would expect to see some kind of regression, but
Yeah.
especially out of a running back.
Well, we have. Let's not rewrite history here. We have seen regression. Derrick Henry has not been as good over the last 2 years. That's just a fact.
Yeah, he didn't run for 250. He only ran for 199.
No,
So-
it's not.
I guess what I'm saying, Corey, though, is
he had
is
a really
seeing
good
him-
game, and I don't want to take it away from
get
him,
it.
but
I get it.
he has
But
gotten
seeing him
worse.
through 4 weeks, it begs the question: how much of that was Derrick Henry aging, and how much of that was the Titans team that was around him?
Fair question.
No, yeah, that's a great point. That being said, I'm taking the Bills on the road this week. I just like what I'm seeing out of Josh Allen more than I like what I'm seeing out of C.J. Stroud. I think James Cook. Let's not take anything away from him. He's been pretty freaking solid this year
Been
as
great.
well. So, I think the biggest knock on the Bills over the last, I would say, 5 years has been the running game, and James Cook has been pretty consistent over the last couple of years with them,
Yeah.
kind of allowing them to
He's
open up
stuck.
that offense. And I will continue to say it. I think Stephon Diggs is a cancer. I think the Bills losing Stephon Diggs made them better. And I think it's going to show this week. So taking the Bills here. All right. Now moving on to the worst matchup of the 1 o'clock slot, which is the Baltimore Ravens on the road in Cincinnati. I had you guys egged me to do it earlier. I'm doing it right now. So here we are. I actually have 2 tickets to this game.
Wow.
So I need a +1 if anybody's able and willing.
To that snooze fest? Good
Todd.
luck.
Right?
Take Todd. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, we got the Ravens on the road down here in Cincy. Ravens last week obviously just beat the doors off the Bills. Bengals coming off a pretty solid win over the Panthers. It was a shootout. Joe Burrow looked fantastic last week. So this should be a fantastic AFC North matchup coming into the latter half of the beginning part of the season in the NFL. So I will go ahead and I'll go ahead and start this one. I'm going to take the Ravens on the road in Cincinnati. I'm going to let Todd and Corey break this one down. Aaron, I'll pass it to you real quick for your pick, and then we'll let them break it down. So I'm taking the Ravens on the road. Aaron, who you got?
Yeah, I'm also going to take the Ravens. The thing I worry about this game from the Bengals perspective is their offense is going to have to play near perfect football. And we've seen that, last week we saw that basically happen in the Washington game and couldn't come out with a win. And frankly, we saw that in Kansas City as well. I think the Ravens defense is good enough to stop the Bengals 2 to 3 times. And unfortunately, that might be enough in a game like this.
To add some perspective to my pick, it's not that I don't think the Bengals offense can keep up. I just don't think the Bengals defense can. It's been their biggest liability this season. And obviously Cam Taylor-Britt has had a rough couple weeks. And I don't think that stops this week against this high-powered offense that the Ravens have. So
I also think the Raiders game week 2 for the Ravens kind of awoke that sleeping giant in them as well. That was my preseason pick as the Super Bowl. I think that level of urgency, unfortunately, rushed to that Ravens off or that locker room to the detriment of maybe the teams that we root for a little earlier in the season than I would have liked.
Sure. Gentlemen, take it away.
After you, Todd.
Can I go? Can I go last? I'll let you go, and then I'll talk.
Excuse me. I think sometimes we forget that this team is one bullshit pass interference play away from being 2-2 with a win over the defending Super Bowl champs. Yeah, this defense needs a lot of help, and I don't think I don't think it would be. I think it would be foolish of me to say otherwise or try and deny that. Cam Taylor-Britt had a bad game last week. He looked lost. He looked slow. He looked bad technique, which they actually called out on the broadcast a couple of times. I don't think Cam Taylor-Britt's had a bad year or even a bad couple of weeks. He's gotten burned on passes. Like, that happens, but he hasn't had a bad year. He had a bad game. The stats back me up on this. He's one of the best corners, excluding last week, in coverage this year. One of the things that I'm really concerned about with this team and this is actually something that's been about 3 years in the making. There seems to be more of a desire to try and strip the football than tackle the ball carrier. And I don't understand it. it has to be coached at this point because it's consistent throughout the team. Go for the ball, hold the guy up, go for the ball, hold the guy up. We'll all get there eventually. You sacrifice like 3 to 5 yards every single time when we do that. And if you've watched the Bengals over the last few weeks, you'll see it. You'll probably see it on Sunday. Derrick Henry doesn't do well against Cincinnati. He averages about 80 yards a game and half a touchdown a game. So let's say he does more than that and scores 1 touchdown. I'm feeling good about that. First of all, let me come out and say from a strategic standpoint and from a just like removing myself, I'm taking the Ravens. How do the Bengals make this happen? They have the best quarterback in football in Joe Burrow. And that's how they make it happen. That's pretty much it. Joe Burrow has to play perfect football. You already talked about it. He talked about it actually in his press conference today. I pretty much have to be perfect because my possessions are going to be limited. And that's how I'm preparing for this week. I think there is a little bit of edge to this game due to the fact that he was hurt last year in this Thursday night matchup. Afterwards, I don't know if you anyways caught this, but after the game, as the panel is talking, Ravens fans are chanting "fuck Joe Burrow" during the post-game conference. So I don't know if that got to Joe at all. I don't know if he heard that. He's not really a social media guy, but I hope it did. Because he's the kind of guy that keeps receipts on shit like that, and I think it would help. We're getting away from X's and O's here as to why, but how they win the game is Joe Burrow plays like Joe Burrow. Want to give a quick shout out to this offense though, because what they are becoming is probably one of the most versatile offenses in the NFL. They've got Zach Moss and Chase Brown that are running the ball really well. The Bengals offensive line is top 5 in pass protection, which is insane that it just came out of my mouth. Orlando Brown is probably having one of his best years. Outside of one fuck up, Amarius Mims looked really good last week. Cordell Volson and a couple of holding penalties. But outside of that, this offensive line is looking really good. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Andre Yoshivas, Eric All, shout out Fairfield High School, looking really good, playing the way that, as I said to Todd in our group chat, he plays football the way that makes your dad's dick hard. He's just a bring his lunch pail to work kind of guy. That's the way that Eric Hall plays football. Okay. He's blocking really well. He's catching the ball really well. He's hard to tackle, all of the stuff that you want out of a tight end. So Bengals need to be able to run the ball effectively. They need to keep Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry off the field, allow their defense to get rest. This is not an explosive play game. You don't want it to be, but at the same time, I think it's very easy that 55 points is scored in this game. I already gave my pick. I don't want to say it again, but I'll leave you with this. Fuck them Ravens.
Okay,
Here's the thing, fellas. The city of Cincinnati is corralling, right? We had a pretty big event happen in our town, and the
Pete Rose game.
What happens in a situation?
I didn't even think it.
What happens in a situation like this is there's a factor in here. It is, we'll call it what it is. It doesn't impact the game, but the city's tight right now, and these Bengal fans are going to be tight in fucking Paycor. This is a big game for the fucking AFC North. It's a big game for the NFL. And historically, you look at an event like that happens in a city that's blue collar the way that we've described it, the team rallies around it. And I think it just changes. These guys feel a particular way about representing the city that they play football in. And I think these guys know that we're all kind of looking for something, right? We're looking for something to get right on. And I'm fucking taking the Bengals, dude. There is something in my gut.
I hope you're right.
That tells me that it's going to be like a fucking stars align culmination of everything. But something tells me that there's something in the world, this will be the get right for Cincinnati, and I think it kind of alleviates the pain, like the pain that's kind of you feel it, just talking to people in the area, and it's the first thing that anybody brings up when they fucking talk to you. Every person that I've spoken to at work, I mean, I went to fucking 5 job sites today. It's like, it's crazy what happened, right? Like, can you believe it? Like, the city needs something else to talk about, and this is, I feel like that as an organization, they know that they could change that direction. And it's just my gut.
It's a welcome distraction for the city, right? I actually think that's an interesting point there, Todd. And I think the other point too that is on your side is this is without a doubt a kitchen sink game for the Bengals. Like, you started this season 0-3. You're looking at it now at 1-3, and you fall to 1-4 and lose a divisional game. I'm not trying to say it's the season, but this is
It's a big
really
game.
these division.
Pivotal game.
I mean, these are worth 2 when you really think about it for the division. So, I think without a doubt the Bengals are going to throw everything at this.
A couple of good things real quick. Seeing in the chat, I can't see who it is, but it says, what's the event there? Todd's alluding to the fact that the greatest hitter in the history of baseball, born and raised and played in Cincinnati and managed in Cincinnati, Pete Rose, passed away at the age of 83 on Monday night. So got goosebumps just saying that. So a couple of things that are happening for the Bengals on a positive note. Trey Hendrickson seems to have avoided any type of serious injury, limited today in practice. BJ Hill seems to be coming back, ready to play, limited today in practice. Jackson McKinley Jackson coming back, rookie. People feel like this is a big deal. I don't know. He's never played a snap of professional football, so we'll see.
Right.
We'll see. He's an interior defensive lineman. The Bengals are banged up on the end. What's going on with the Bengals? Why? What? They're missing their 2 starting defensive tackles. Like, let's not overlook this, guys. Like that, BJ Hill and Sheldon Rankins are big parts of that front defensive line. But I think the unsung hero from last week is Chris Jenkins Jr. Chris Jenkins Jr. played a hell of a football game. Rookie out of Michigan, 2nd-round pick. Could he be that? Could this be an up-and-coming game for him? He's kind of a little bit of a utility on the defensive line. You can interior rush him. You can run stop. He can do a lot of different things. So it'll be interesting to see. We got a lot of work cut out for us to do the Bengals, but God, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope Todd's right.
The Bengals could win only if Todd gives the pregame speech.
I would immediately start sobbing. I wouldn't be able to do it.
I would give everything on the planet to watch you give a pregame speech to the Bengals. That would be incredible.
The only thing I watch sometimes when I need motivation, like going into work, is the Marvin Lewis speech.
Ooh,
just talking about, he says basically, he's like, you got guys not making blocking assignments, guys not catching passes. This is the NFL. This is your football team. Figure it out. It's just, yeah. That's the only time I've ever.
Was that speech from a regular season game?
Yeah, Hard Knocks.
Oh, that is a very
is that
hilarious
not at Marvin Lewis?
It was a little bit, yeah.
It was
AFC North champions than you've ever seen the Browns had in your life, Aaron.
Yeah,
is that who you're talking about? All right, just
correct.
Making sure.
The guy I listened to you bitch about for 6 years,
rightfully so. They're not mutually exclusive points, Aaron.
Okay, sure.
That is hilarious. Holy smokes! All right, let's move.
A little smack.
All right, let's move on to the first game on the 4:00 slate.
The fuck city of Baltimore. Can we just all agree on that real quick? Sorry, Bob.
No,
sure.
Yeah, you're good. Agreed. Moving forward, we've got the Raiders taking on the Broncos. Bo Nix doing some things up there in good old Denver, Colorado. Obviously a barn burner, 10-9 against the Jets. Excuse me. Going against the Raiders. Raiders last week beat the Brownies 20-16. Interesting game here. I'm not completely sold on either side, so I'm interested to see what you guys have to say and what Chad has to say. Aaron, I'll let you lead this one off. Who you got?
Yes, it's an interesting game because, I mean, I say interesting, not that I'm super excited or dialed in or going to have this one on exclusively or anything like that, but both of these teams have some interesting wins. We saw the Raiders beat Baltimore, obviously Cleveland, Baltimore being the more impressive one, and the Broncos laid it on the Buccaneers and beat the Jets last week. I don't think either of these teams are like very good, but I also don't think they're as bad as we initially thought. Max Crosby is still going to be out for this week, I believe. And obviously with Devontae, I truly believe the Broncos defense is a top 5 unit. Or at least on defense. And, I think that's going to be a real difference in this one, especially at home. So I'm going to take the Broncos here at Mile High. Bo Nix hasn't really done anything to, super impress me, but he's also doing enough for them to get some wins. I think the Broncos are going to end up with a winning record after this week.
Sure, Corey.
Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to disagree here. I think that overall, I've seen more out of Denver than I have out of Vegas. Gifted a win last week, as Aaron alluded to earlier. Coin flip opportunity. Mile High should be rocking on a bit of a win streak here potentially after today. Divisional game. Yeah, go ahead and give me the Broncos at home.
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna ride the Broncos train as well. I think there's too much off the field going on there in Vegas. A lot of distractions, and for that reason, I'm taking the Broncos this week as well. Todd.
The Antonio Pierce thing's kind of fucking weird, right? Like that's just a weird thing for
like
a coach
in
to
Instagram
do.
posts.
Yeah,
being insanely in depth.
He is like still, I think, walking that line between player and coach.
Yeah,
I don't think he's really figured out how to be an NFL coach yet.
I agree with you. That's the direction that I was gonna kind of walk down here too for a second. Is it feels like it's kind of a free for all in Vegas, right? Like
it felt that way for a while,
right?
Since they built it,
right? Sure.
Oh, you're talking about the football team. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But it's at least seemed like that Vegas, Oakland, whatever, they've always kind of wrangled it back in to win football games, and we're not too far away from them being, they were in a wild card game with the Bengals. That was 4 years ago. But I think we're teetering on like lack of control to out of control. That's what I feel like when I see the Raiders right now. It just feels like that he's kind of running it like a trap house in a roundabout way. Like welcome in, welcome out. Everybody can just kind of come and do as they please. And then if you do your job, that's fine. If you don't, whatever, I'll probably talk some shit. I don't know. It feels bad. The vibes are bad in Vegas. But I'm taking the Broncos. I think there's too much headline about one specific player in a team that always just turns into a bad thing.
Show your butthole, Squeaks. We know you want to. All cats like showing their buttholes.
Welcome
just
to
do it.
Welcome to OnlyFans. We're doing $5 cat butthole pics.
Oh, there it is.
Thanks, Squeaks. Thanks, buddy.
Had to censor that.
Nice.
Lord, this is a family friendly. This is a family friendly program, sir.
I know cats, man. They like showing their buttholes.
Just big fan of it.
They're like Terry from Reno 911.
Jesus.
All of them.
That's good call.
All right, boys. Let's move on here. We've got the Arizona Cardinals headed to the Bay Area to take on the 49ers. Man, whoever took Christian McCaffrey number 1 in their fantasy league needs to go crawl on a wall and cry. I am one of them. So
I had the first overall pick, didn't take him, took CD, took Mason in like the 10th. I'm 0-4. So
That was-
anyone else listening out there, it sucks for everybody. I lost Rashee Rice this week. We're not doing great, guys. We're not doing great.
I mean, should he have been playing football in the first place? But hey, we're
Yeah,
here.
he should. Because you know what? I've given up. You know what? Forget about it. It's football. All right. This isn't fucking Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. There's gonna be some bad eggs, guys.
Oh, shit.
So that's where we decided to take that. Okay.
Who's your quarterback? No,
Hey,
just kidding.
hate him to death.
Just kidding.
I've allowed myself
I-
this amount of moral leeway, and I've
Yeah.
invested it all in the NFL.
Yep, you took it, and it's there, and we understand. So
Niners.
Aaron's taking the Niners this week at home. Any need to elaborate there? Or we just
I mean, they're playing good football. Brock Purdy actually is probably one of the, we were talking about MVPs earlier. I don't think, at least it deserves to be brought up a little bit. I know it's a lot of system. Cardinals have flashed at times. They've fallen back to earth at times. I think Marvin Harrison Jr., without a doubt, was deserving of the pick that he had. This guy's going to be a stud in this league for a while. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, the Niners are, I just think, a much more well-oiled machine than the Cardinals, and I'll lean on him here for that.
sure, Todd.
I hadn't taken the Cardinals for about a year, and I took them last week. And you know what happened? They lost. And that hurts me. I don't like being scorned by somebody. That's
They were due.
You're right. They were due. They were due to hurt me.
I'm just gonna always
Tour
say
with my
that.
emotions. Do a tour with my emotions. Yeah. Why would I'd have to be talked into very elaborately to take anybody but the 49ers in this game, right? Like it just Arizona. I really did think that based on watching Washington's defense that they would be able to move the ball, and they did not do that well either.
Well, see, that's kind of like what I was talking about earlier tonight. Like we don't know anything. Like that's why I don't feel that bad about the Bengals that right now is because
Sure.
like Washington's could be. We could be here, come Halloween and be like, yeah, Washington can win the NFC East, right? Like that's where we're at this
Wacky.
point, and it's just we don't know anything yet, guys. We don't know anything. We're just wandering around here, and you know what? That, my friends, is the truth. Brought to you by Ryan Geist Brewery, Cincinnati, Ohio. Sponsor us. Go ahead.
Waiting for your pick.
Yeah.
Oh, it's me. It's me. Give me the 49ers, but the Cardinals cover. I'm going to stick to my story this year that the Cardinals are going to be the highest, have the most one possession losses in all of football.
They're going to be cover queens all year.
Yes.
Yeah, I see no reason to fade you guys. The 49ers are definitely the more consistent team. I think the Cardinals definitely have an opportunity to win this game with the way that the 49ers are banged up right now. But they're going to need to have a near perfect game to take on Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. So, Ted, thank you for liking the video, big dog. All right, moving forward, we got the 425 slate coming up. We've got the New York Giants taking things on the road. 15th man or 12th man, whatever it's called. 12th man, excuse me, in Seattle. Sorry.
That's a penalty.
They've gotten so loud there. It's the 14th man.
It's the 14th man. Good night. I think this is going to be a fantastic football game. Obviously going into the season, you look at Giants and Seahawks on the schedule, you're like, oh, this sucks. But man, with the way that Malik Neighbors has kind of started out and gotten this offense rolling, and then you got the Seahawks who are playing some pretty good football right now. This is going to be a pretty solid matchup here in the afternoon slate of the Sunday matchup. So, Corey, lead us off. Giants on the road. Who you got?
I think the Seahawks win this going away. I think that this game on Monday night was kind of a, you want to call it the Vegas game for Baltimore, the shock to the system. I think that's what we get for Seattle here. Um, I like Malik Neighbors a lot, but I don't see how the Giants are any different than the Cardinals, or how we're viewing them any differently. They're the same. They're the same kind of team, in my opinion. We have a quarterback that we're not that super confident in. That's pretty mobile. Obviously, one more than the other in this situation, and two and really good rookie wide receivers. Going on the road into Seattle, I mean, there's a reason why the spread is what it is. It opened at -5.5. It's swollen now to -6.5, and the juice hasn't changed. So Vegas is staying confident in Seattle. I'm going to do the same here. I could be eating crow come Sunday Night Football, but I think this is a pretty confident win for the Seahawks here at home.
Sure, Todd.
Yeah, I'm taking the Seahawks too. I just the Mike McDonald coaching, like that whole situation in Seattle is pretty interesting.
They go from one legendary, amazing coach, probably one of the greatest coaches ever, to Mike McDonald. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you skipping. It's 2 generational difference, coach. Right? Like we're going through 2 generations.
Even 3,
between these
dude.
guys. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know, man. Even the sideline, regardless of the score of that Lions game, it just seemed like that's a pretty cohesive group. It seems like Seattle's they're firing, they're doing well. I really bringing back Kenneth Walker III. I think that backfield in Seattle is actually pretty. That's a kind of a dangerous backfield, fellas.
That tackle he broke was unreal.
Yeah,
he like wrestling sprawled and flipped over.
Yeah.
I think Kenneth Walker III is right in that same conversation too. Of when he's healthy, he's dangerous. Like he makes and breaks games. And I'm high on Zach Charbonnet too, fellas. I think that he's a guy that really switches momentum in the backfield and gives you kind of that elusive, quick first 2 steps off the ball.
Todd, I'd mentioned a couple weeks ago when you were off the pod that was our draft crush. Me and you, we had a mutual love for Zach Charbonnet and wanted him on the Bengals.
Dude. Yeah. Yes. I think that
remember your crush.
Yeah, he just it's a totally. I mean, the way they run the ball it's polar opposites, and I think that's necessary when Geno Smith moves. He's a good quarterback. He's not make or breaking games, but when you can change the face of the ball the way that they do, I think that makes a big difference. And I think it showed through. They ran the ball well Monday night too. Seattle's kind of they're a sneaky wild card team to me from the NFC, fellas. I feel like that they're one of these teams that down the stretch they continue to play this way. I mean, shit, they could win the NFC West. Who knows? But they could bust up a playoff pick 'em for a few people if they continue to play this way.
Absolutely. Aaron.
Yeah, guys, I was pretty high in the Seahawks coming into this year. I'm gonna take them here too. But one of the things I don't really believe in moral victories, and I certainly wouldn't even try to qualify what happened on Monday night as any kind of moral victory for Seattle. But you can learn things about teams in a loss. And what I learned out of Seattle is they were able to go in at halftime, make adjustments, and not just let that game get away from them on the road. They walked into that halftime 21-7. All the momentum was on Detroit side. They came out of the half, scored a touchdown, and yeah, Detroit ended up matching them points wise. But that game actually had a moment there in the third quarter where it looked like Seattle was gonna get right back in there. And not that I would say this team used to keel over by any means, but when you have a new coach like that, it's interesting to see how your team's going to respond. And that was I learned even in a loss on Monday night. So again, no moral victories, but I think that's a big thing to take away from Seattle, even in a loss.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason to fade you guys here. I've been saying all season that it's really, really tough to go into Seattle with a quarterback with less than top tier quarterback and have success. Daniel Jones definitely does not meet that criteria. So I think the Seahawks win this football game, but I don't want anything to be taken away from what the Giants have accomplished this year. I think the offense looks somehow like really good. And I think it has a lot to do with that receiving core there. Malik Neighbors has definitely opened up a lot of things on that side of the ball for them, which has kind of given them a little bit of success. You're obviously seeing it with like guys like Wandale Robinson, who have had, upwards of 8+ targets a game, just on the mere fact that he's getting open because a rookie receiver is getting double coverage in zone. Like, it's been unbelievable to watch somebody like Malik Neighbors like come in and immediately have an impact in the league. And that's going to be a really, really, like, along with like Marvin Harris Jr., like you alluded to earlier, Aaron, he's going to be an incredibly fun person to watch throughout his career over the next decade or so. Granted, he stays healthy. Got the Seahawks here, but should be a fun game to watch nonetheless.
Another interesting note: you have long week for the Giants, rest wise, Thursday to Sunday, short week for Seattle, Monday to Sunday.
Yeah, definitely could also play a pretty good impact there. Tez coming with a comment saying in college, all you hear is how dominant the conference is over every other conference. Most of the names that you guys are talking about are 90% from the Big Ten. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
Is he saying Zach Charbonnet is a Michigan guy because he barely saw snaps in Michigan?
He's also from UCLA at the time, was Pac-12. So if you want to call UCLA Big Ten, he wasn't there when he wasn't Big Ten when he was there.
He was a Pac-12 All-American, was never a
Kenneth Walker. Okay, we'll call
Wake
Kenneth
Forest.
Walker.
Went to Wake Forest first.
No,
he did do well.
Michigan State. He had led the league.
You're right. He was a transfer into Michigan State. He was
at Michigan State is where he led college football in rushing yards.
I don't know, dude. Have you seen his Demon Deacon highlights? I don't know. I just don't like giving the Big Ten credit for things.
Yeah, no one has. No,
Even the Michigan State scouts were like, "You a walk on or something?"
I mean, give a lot of credit. Give a lot of credit to the University of Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. They got a lot of guys drafted last year, and I think that's obviously Ohio State had a ton of wide receiver production over the last couple of years. But like, if we want to just talk about college football here for a second, it's Alabama and Georgia. I don't think there's anybody else that is competing at this point. I mean, did you watch that game on Saturday?
Yeah.
If Georgia gets a quarterback, fuck, Jesus Christ.
It was a cinematic masterpiece of college football. I had a great time watching that game.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, it's not every day you can come across a 28-year-old quarterback that can still start in college. So, just one of those things. Georgia, you think they had enough time to come up with a plan after him, but apparently not. So,
I mean, it's not like I get like it's not to say like the Big Ten doesn't like it's the Big Ten and the SEC are clearly even debatable. Clearly the best two conferences in football, but like. All right, let's talk about national champions. Like, end of discussion.
Yeah. And Tez, to your point, I think Stroud is a one-off out of the Big Ten, especially Ohio State for quarterbacks. I think Justin Fields is slowly creeping into the conversation of being a successful NFL quarterback. I'm not sure he's quite there yet. Obviously, he had a pretty incredible game last week, but I think we need to see a little bit more before we can confirm that, there's a second Ohio State quarterback that has been successful in the league.
And Tez, I know you're talking about Texas because you're a Michigan fan and you watched them absolutely smack the Wolverines up and down the field and side to side and all over. And I know you watched that, but I just want to put it into a little bit of perspective that your Michigan Wolverines have a guy that says hike and takes the ball and hands it off, and maybe sometimes he throws, but you don't have a quarterback. All right. Just want to put that in perspective.
Yeah, Dave Portnoy is offering up $3 million to get a real quarterback in Michigan.
To get a real quarterback. A real, like, if you're Alex
Orji, that's a real confidence booster for that young man.
If you're Alex Orji, you see this shit, dude. I like Alex Orji. I liked him when he came in against Bowling Green for a little bit after J.J. McCarthy threw 3 interceptions to a MAC school. But I like what Alex Orji brings to the table. He just needs to learn how to be a quarterback for real and throw the football.
Yeah.
All right. Let's transition things back. We've got the last game in the 4:00 slate. We got the Packers taking things out to LA to take on Mr. Goodwin's Rams.
Justin Fields is an SEC recruit. Sorry. Throwing that out there.
Well, I guess Joe Burrow's a Big Ten recruit, so
Sure.
Cheers.
Never played a snap, but okay.
I mean, just based off the logic, you just put Joe Burrow.
Hey, Justin Fields played meaningful snaps. All right, go on. Anyway,
I thought it was a good rebuttal, Bob.
Thank you, Aaron.
it was good, and I'm hurt. This is just me lashing out. All right, I'm a human,
It's okay.
You
It's
get
okay.
this man in a corner, and he's
and I don't want to come back down. All right, let's
It's all right.
keep it
It's all right.
rolling.
We all have flaws. It's okay. All right, we got the Packers taking things out to LA to take on the Rams. Jordan Love's back in a big way. Obviously had a fantastic game last week. And then you got the Rams who are just banged up to all hell. So
Crazy.
it's gonna be an interesting game here. I'll lead it off. I'm gonna take the Packers on the road. Jordan Love looked incredible. The Rams are on the ropes. They're obviously very hurt. Not to get it twisted. I think they've got a lot of positive things going there outside of the injuries, but I just can't see it being enough against the Packers. Jordan Love just looked absolutely incredible. Somehow coming off of what we thought would have been a season-ending injury, but thankfully it wasn't. Obviously we don't want to see anybody get hurt, but yeah, Jordan Love. I think he's gonna dice these kids up, and it's gonna be a long day for the Rams. So I got the Packers. Aaron.
Yeah, I got the Packers too. I mean, you saw Love seemed like he was working through a little bit of rust, but I mean, by that time that game got, he got a little bit up to speed there. I think he was the same Jordan Love that we thought we were going to see this year. I'll take the Packers here for all the reasons you just said. The Rams they're pretty banged up, and I think this Packers team is, one of the top 4 in the NFC.
I think that's fair. Todd.
I think this is a big Josh Jacobs game, fellas. Worst run defense for the Rams. Josh Jacobs seems refreshed. The new change of scenery in Green Bay. I think that they get the ball on the ground, score some touchdowns. Aaron alluded to it. I agree with him. This is a good defense, and it's kind of there's first round picks in there, but it's kind of a ragtag group of 6th and 7th round picks. There's a Bowling Green alum that's been playing a very good interior defensive line for them, and Carl Brooks. 7th round pick from UK, being a very good defensive cornerback in Carrington Valentine. It's interesting. And the NFC North is dare I say saucy? Is that the right word? It's
Really
saucy,
good.
boys.
Really good.
Both North divisions on the AFC and the NFC are
Best 2 divisions in football. It's not even close.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm taking the Packers here too. It's hard to put logic to the Rams winning this game.
absolutely. Corey, round us out.
So Matt LaFleur came from the Sean McVay tree. Jesus. McVay
Nice.
tree.
Came from the McVay trade.
Listen here, guys. This is the truth. Okay. No, but seriously, Matt LaFleur comes from the Sean McVay tree. Matt LaFleur is 4-0 against Sean McVay.
Interesting.
5-0.
Ride the wave or fade the streak.
5-0. Give me the pack.
All righty. All right, boys. We got the Cowboys taking things to Pittsburgh.
Oh boy. This game is so drunk already.
Yes. I already know that I'm going to be a hot mess watching this game. Because I have
show any old highlights.
Bobby, your baseline is hot mess. So like,
yeah, I mean that's just
pretty calm then.
That's kind of how I've lived my life. I like to show that I'm even keeled for the most part, but inside, those little feet are just churning.
And yet all the while gorgeous, adorable, and kind hearted. You're basically Zooey Deschanel.
Thank you.
The total package.
I just
total package.
I might bring my ukulele out and sing some sweet tunes to you guys. Come Sunday night. But yeah, this is man, I've been thinking about this game all week. And I have
Wednesday.
I have nothing Like, I don't know. Like, on one hand, Justin Fields last week looked incredible. One of the best like single game performances that you could ever ask for. 300 plus yards. He had 3 touchdowns. 2 of them were on the ground. Like, he's everything that we wanted him to be. And the fact that there were still people saying, "Oh, well, Russell Wilson's going to be healthy." Like, fuck Russell Wilson. Like, this is our guy. Like, if he hasn't shown it to you by now, then you need to just not watch football, because you
Trade
clearly
him for a washer.
traded it for a washing machine. But no, Justin Fields is clearly the guy. Russell Wilson won't see a snap this season, obviously barring something catastrophic taking place. But this Steelers defense is unbelievably good. Last week, we had a couple tough calls go against us. Obviously wasn't the deciding factors in that game. Definitely was a big impact. The NFL came out and said that they made an incorrect call on Minkah Fitzpatrick on that personal foul late in that game when they were driving and the Steelers had momentum. Even Gene Steratore live on the broadcast said that it was like he would have overturned that call. Like, it was not a good call. And you don't really ever see him take the side of anybody but the referees. So, and the fact that they came out and said that, and they asked Tomlin about it, and Tomlin's like, "Well, that doesn't help me on Monday." Like, it is like mistakes happen. It is what it is. Not to take anything away from the Colts, Joe Flacco came in and did what Joe Flacco does against the fucking Steelers, and it's annoying. He just comes in and manages a good game. So, that being said, the Cowboys this season, for me personally, they've looked lost. They don't have an identity. Mike McCarthy, how he still has a job is beyond me at this point.
Last year of his contract.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen people get fired in the first year of their contract. So I don't really know if that argument holds weight at this point. Matt Rule is obviously swimming in some cash, coaching in the college football world, in love and life. So, it's still getting paid by the Carolina Panthers, by the way. So I'm going to roll with the Steelers this week, boys. I'm not confident in the Cowboys offensive line. They've been struggling. That being said, the Steelers offensive line hasn't been that great. Broderick Jones has been an absolute fucking liability. I think he has resulted for half of the Steelers offensive penalties this season. And that's not an exaggeration. Whether it's a hold or an illegal formation, whatever it is, Broderick Jones, 76, seems to be the guy that is always getting called. So, and that's 100% coaching, and that's not something you typically see from the Steelers, but it is what it is. That being said, Cowboys are missing a lot of key pieces on defense. I think the Steelers offense has finally had some things click in the right direction. And I'm going to take the Steelers this week. Corey.
Pass.
Todd.
Sure. I hear you on the whole Dallas thing, because I kind of get a similar vibe from Dallas. I watched that Thursday night game against the Giants, and it just seems
Tez, games in Pittsburgh. Go ahead, Todd. Sorry.
It just seems like there's a cylinder misfiring somewhere in the Cowboys, right? That's kind of how I see what's going on there. I think a big part of that is that they can't run the ball for shit, right? Like they're going to have to throw the ball on you. And this went from a top 5 defense to a bottom 10 defense. Obviously,
Fast.
Losing Dan Quinn sucks, but yeah, I mean, I think they're 27th or 28th in yards against per game, most of that being in the air. So I guess my point I'm getting at is I think that up to this point, I think the Steelers have put together a more consistent gameplay week over week. I'm not going to get into the defense thing. You've already talked about their defense is very, very good. But I think the big thing is going to be is that keep Dallas off the field, and they'll be able to get into scoring position. And I think Boswell hits every field goal over 50 yards. So as long as you get him right around 50-yard field goal, you can score 21 points, right? I mean, you've won
This
a game
could be a
off all
battle
field.
of kickers between
Yeah,
Brandon Aubrey and Chris Boswell.
the Steelers have already won one game by just kicking field goals. They could do it again, right? So I'm taking Pittsburgh as well, especially at home.
Sure. Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think when we saw that Steelers Colts game last week, my concern with the Steelers was, and it ended up happening in the game, is if this team goes down early, it's going to be tough for them to claw out of that hole more than it, because they rely so heavily on their defense. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You can certainly, win NFL football games that way. And I think the Steelers defense is legitimately that good. So there's no problem with your team being set up that way. But when you go down 17-0, it's going to be a tough game for the Steelers to win.
Absolutely.
I don't necessarily see that being a problem this week as much, in the sense that Brandon Cooks is ruled out. We know Micah Parsons is he's listed as doubtful. He's going to be out. You don't really want to give the Steelers defense any leg up and basically needing them to only focus on CeeDee Lamb, because I'm not worried about this running backs. Yeah, you can, Ferguson can make some plays, but I'm not necessarily game planning around the tight end. He's not that much of a difference maker. And knowing that they're, solid number 2 is going to be out in this game, I think is a very, very big detriment to that Cowboys offense. Coupled with the fact that this game's going to be in Pittsburgh, it's really hard for me to pick against the Steelers. I think this is just one of those games, and you guys said it too with the field goals. Yeah, that could certainly be the case, and it could be 12-9 Cowboys, and that's just how it goes. Steelers have their struggles on offense, but I think this is one of those games that's just designed perfectly for a Steelers ugly win.
Corey, you can't pass this time.
Yeah, I was just looking at offensive line performance and how it relates to sacks, because I think we have concerns about both these offensive lines.
James Daniel out for the season too, right? I mean,
yeah, we've lost 4 of our 5 starting offensive linemen to the season.
Right. So coincidentally, both of these quarterbacks have been sacked 10 times.
Which is probably for different reason, though. Fields has always been a guy
that,
holds on to the
Deshaun Watson's been sacked 19 fucking times this year already.
Yes.
That's
sure. That's all over Aaron's face. As soon as you said 19, you just said yes.
Yes.
No hesitation.
That's fucking wild. Also, 3-1
can't express
Tampa.
To you guys enough how bad the offensive line has been here. Apparently, there's like a law in Ohio where only one team's allowed to have an offensive line, and I guess it's your guys' turn, because we've had a great one for like 6 years.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. Wow, Caleb Williams 16 times. That's just
Baker's been sacked like 15 times too, right?
Baker has been sacked 15 times. That's wild.
I think more so important is the time to throw stat, though, because a lot of these like Deshaun has a lot of those sacks have been him holding onto the ball, and the same thing with Fields.
On Deshaun, yeah. I'm trying to find a reason to fade you guys here, and I'm struggling. Vegas opened this up at -2 at a -115 for Pittsburgh. It's moved to -2.5 at -110.
That's basically a money line.
It's not, though. You got to win by a field goal now. Yeah, this isn't the one. I'm gonna stick pat here, and I was thinking Pittsburgh, but just because mostly if Micah Parsons or Brandon Cooks is in this game, I'm going Dallas, but they're not. So give me Pittsburgh.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let's wrap things up on Monday night. We've got the Saints, who've been kind of hot and cold this year, taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. So,
Kansas City Royals.
I was gonna say referees.
It must be October.
Tried to cut it short, but yeah. Chiefs at home. They just, I guess you could call it re-signed. Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt is now back in that backfield.
Also a piece of shit for those keeping score at home.
Yeah, the Chiefs are just signing players that just exude integrity. At this point, wins are obviously all that matter. So, Chiefs at home against the Saints. Corey, I'll pass it back to you. Who you got?
Give me the Saints. I'm gonna fade the Chiefs because they keep getting lucky, and it's gonna bite them in the ass at some point. This isn't a 4-0 football team. Call it what it is. It's not. It's not a 4-0 football team. They're not playing good football. They should have lost to the Chargers. They absolutely should have lost to the Chargers, but Chargers gonna Charger, right? They're just gonna do. They're not in San Diego anymore, but they fucking play like it. And it's frustrating for somebody that always wants the Chiefs to lose. Yeah, I don't have any X's and O's here other than the fact that the Chiefs have been pulling victory out of the jaws of defeat very, very much so all year. Go ahead and give me the Saints here to finally let it catch up to them.
Sure, Todd.
Honestly, Phil, I'm so dejected on this fucking referee bullshit. The Chiefs are playing in prime time. I can't really go against it. I've seen enough of it already. Even if the game's close, it doesn't really seem like it fucking matters. I think the only way that the Saints win this is they capitalize on Mahomes being more vulnerable to turn the ball over. He's got 5 interceptions through 4 weeks, fellas.
Tez, are you kidding? Are you
Stop?
Dead ass?
Stop playing.
I'm fact checking it right now.
He's fucking with us.
Yeah, he has to be.
I was gonna say, are the Raiders really traded him in the division?
Yeah, no way.
I don't got anything.
Yeah, nothing. Fake news. Fake news. The liberal media doing it again.
He's just trying to get our goats here, boys. Yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs because it just seems to be the way things are, fellas.
Yep.
Just seems to be the way things are. I don't like it. I vomit.
Is it fatigue or is it justified? This is the moral dilemma I struggle with. Is it Chiefs fatigue in that we're just so tired? Because I have this with Scotty Scheffler in golf. I root against Scotty Scheffler on a regular basis because I'm tired of him winning. It's not fun. He's a very, very, very boring person. He's not Tiger Woods. He's never going to be as exciting as Tiger Woods. There will be no one as exciting as Tiger Woods, to be fair. But Scotty Scheffler is boring as fuck. Okay? I root against him on a regular basis because I'm tired of him winning. I want someone else to be the winner. I want someone else to be the guy.
You can thank Liv for that.
So, well, I want. Am I just tired of the Chiefs winning all the time, and that's where my my dismay comes from, or is it justified? Is my hatred for mainly Patrick Mahomes, is it justified, or is it fatigue?
Okay, sorry.
He very clearly had something he wanted to say.
Get that pussy off the camera, Aaron.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Surprised it wasn't.
Listen, I think part of it's fatigue, and the main reason I say that is, I get the stuff with the refs, guys, but I also think the Chiefs just play a shitload of games on primetime and all eyes are on them. I didn't really hear anything about the Chargers game. It was a 1:00 game. I don't really care. You know, like it's just a different level of scrutiny. You know,
we were also watching our games at that time.
But that's what I'm saying. All eyeballs are on the Chiefs when they've had, you know, this is going to be their 4th or 5th primetime game this season, you know? So part of me, like, I get the refs thing, but like it gets tiring after a certain point. Cause like, again, Bobby, you saw it this last week for your team. I saw it this last week for my team. Like if we really have a problem with it, then we just got to stop watching football. It's just part of the game, guys. Like,
yep.
I don't know how other way to put it. And I sometimes just get worn down with that conversation. Well, exactly. But that's my point is like, yeah, and I get it. And we should be advocating for, you know, better resources for referees. We've seen them institute the Sky Judge. You know, at the very least, there is some stuff that's changing. If it feels like the Chiefs are getting all the calls, I think it's because we have a natural feeling of fuck the Chiefs, and I'm fine with rooting against them. I just think I just don't think we're being very biased when we're watching them in general, as opposed to some of the calls that, we get calls, we miss calls, calls go against us, calls go for us. Like, my hope is that ultimately all evens out in the wash, and you don't want that to be the story.
Sure.
But Corey, you mentioned it earlier with the Texans. Like, you have these, these close games, these close wins, and at a certain point that kind of becomes part of your identity. I think this will be another very, very close game. And when this gets down to, nut up or shut up time, I'm going to take the team that, ultimately proves that they can pull it out each time. And it's boring, but I'm going to take the Chiefs.
I think my frustrations is pretty similar to Corey's too. I think mine is the fatigue of where we currently stand within Kansas City, right? Like, I also have a strong disdain for Patrick Mahomes. I don't really like the way that he carries himself, and on the field, I think it's created bad perception for young football players to be whiny
Rock that
and
haircut.
Yeah, well, Dylan Raiola wants to. I mean, he's 100%. He wants to be him so bad that he literally has his routine. But I just don't. My fatigue comes from I don't like him being the face of football.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where I get frustrated is
You
because
go from Tom Brady to Patrick Mahomes, and it has nothing to do with how they carry themselves on the field.
Yeah,
Right.
but don't forget, we all hated Tom Brady when he played too.
I didn't.
A lot of people did.
I definitely did not like Tom Brady.
Loved him.
It wasn't until the end of his career where I actually started appreciating like what he did. Like, just honestly speaking, like, you don't. I think it's kind of where you guys are at, where it's like, because not to throw shade in any way, shape, or form, but the Bengals weren't competitive when Tom Brady was winning championships, and the Steelers were competitive, and we ran into Tom Brady constantly, and Tom Brady always got the best of us, and it was super annoying to watch, and it was very frustrating, and it was always like, man, like, especially like when they played like the Raiders, and obviously the Tuck rule came into play, and then we played them in the AFC Championship game and lost, and they went to the Super Bowl, and it was just like, fuck, man, like, when are we ever going to get over that hurdle? Like,
I mean, it's you grow up on all the sports movies we watched, right? Like,
We were 12-4 in 2015. I just don't want to rewrite history here. Like, the Bengals were competitive while Tom Brady was winning championships. I don't want to, like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, you don't root for Goliath. Like, it's not fun. You don't root for the Monstars. You don't root for, like, it's you want.
I'm at the point now where I want Patrick Mahomes to get, like, if he got hit by a bus and couldn't play football again, I wouldn't be sad.
That's
ridiculous
sad and extreme.
That's just where I'm at. I think there's a lot of people that, a lot of people probably feel this way. Not me. A lot of people. Good people on both sides.
Gotcha. Well, I'm taking the Chiefs. The Saints have been too inconsistent, and to Aaron's point, the Chiefs, when it comes down to it, Todd as well, said the same thing. It's just when it comes down to it, you got to take the team that can win the close ones, and the Chiefs have proven time and time again that it doesn't matter if their backs are against the wall or what's going on, they can seem to find a way to figure it out. So I'm gonna take the boring pick and take the Chiefs. So,
my lone wolf in the Saints here.
You are.
Yep.
You are. You're lone wolf in Monday night.
Love that.
So let's recap the lone wolves here. Obviously, you've got the Saints
this week.
I got a couple of them, I think.
Todd has the Bengals. Obviously a hedged happiness pick there from Mr. James. Corey, you got the Texans by yourself over the Bills. I've got the Colts over the Jags as a lone wolf. And that is it. That is it. Other than that, we're either split or we're all on the same page. So should be an interesting week. Obviously, the standings will change across the board, not only in the chat, but in the panel as well. So it should be another fun, exciting week for the Pick'em. Definitely looking forward to it, gentlemen. Awesome show. Enjoyed the time. For everybody that was watching, thank you for swinging by. If you missed it, obviously we'll be having the podcast uploaded tomorrow to be listened to on all platforms. But until next week, best of luck in your fantasy leagues. Best of luck to your teams this week. And we will see you guys on Wednesday for week 6.
Best of luck to some of your teams.
Some.
Yeah.
Not all.
Fuck
Some.
them Redbirds.
All right. Peace out, guys.